In the Chong County Sine Manor, there were two men sitting next to an infant in a gazebo. One of the men was a healer from a noble family. He carefully examined the infant and gave his verdict to the father. The physician said that unfortunately, his baby would not live to be 20 years old. Jung Dae-hyun's father, the head of the manor, lamented how this was so. Why is he being punished like this? It was because the baby's mother couldn't cope and died in childbirth. The physician was indignant. He couldn't believe that the head would say such a thing in front of him. Besides, how can he say such a thing about his own child who is destined to die young? He seems to have ruptured 9 yin meridians. Never in his practice has a healer seen the Bai Hui acupuncture point so open. It's located on the top of the head, and if it's open too much, a person's life won't be long. It's usually called the ascension of a deity. Chong asked if ascension was something that only powerful Taoists could do. The healer replied that he didn't really believe in such nonsense. Maybe Chong had heard of absolute martial artists who use the upper meridian of the head. It's the Bai Hui point. It's what's called deity ascension. Man receives too much of the great nature's energy, dies because he is unable to resist the power. Chong sighed. After a little thought, he said that it must be heaven's punishment after all. The healer resented how he could call himself a father after such a thing. The baby lay quietly in the cradle. Chong said it was time for the physician to go. He would ask him to give him his salary, but the doctor thanked him and refused. On the way, he thought, if fate had been more favorable to this child, if he had been raised in an unconventional sect, he would have succeeded in becoming a heavenly demon. If he had been raised in Shaolin, he would have learned to use elite fighting techniques. But alas, he became a hateful child in such a place. He would die in such a backwater young, without a chance at life, unless he achieves enlightenment on his own. Decades later, at the Chon estate, the whole family gathered for dinner. The head of the family decided to give a speech. Ever since his father, an adept of the Zhongnan Chonggom Jia sect, founded this clan, Chon has devoted his entire life to revitalizing this clan. If their clan becomes world famous, Zhong will inherit the supreme technique of the Junnan sect, so he can't leave things halfway. He is very proud that his son has followed in his ancestors' footsteps and managed to join the Zhuangnan sect. Everyone congratulated the young man. His brother added to think that he had become an adept of the Zhuangnan sect. It was simply unbelievable. Father offered to drink to this, but then one of the sons pointed to an empty chair and said that young Shin wasn't here yet. To the children's surprise, the father explained that he had ordered young Shin to stay at the training ground. He better not be present at such a joyous occasion. He might cause trouble for everyone. Meanwhile, in the training room, young Shin continued to train. He had finally mastered the Chan clan's movement art. Using it, his muscles are filled with energy that moves Yeon in space. Young Shin thought about it. I wonder if he would be able to live a little longer with this training, the art of movement. His brother asked Young Shin if he had created a martial art. Young Shin replied that he did it using the clan's cultivation technique. To Young Shin's surprise, the brother said it would be better if he didn't tell anyone about it. The second brother asked Young Shin if he wanted him to learn the martial arts he had a hand in. What if there's an energy blackout during the training and he dies? Would Yeon take responsibility? Shin was confused. His father shouted, "How dare Yong interfere with their martial art? He's gone crazy. Does he think he's the founder of the clan?" Young left the clan. He sat there thinking, the clan founder is the person who creates martial arts. He didn't even think about it and never aspired to it. He just wanted to heal and live together with everyone else. His thoughts were interrupted by a noise outside. When he looked out, he saw that everyone was in a hurry. Yong thought that today must be the day of the visit of the martial artists from the Zhongnan sect. The Zhongnan sect is one of the 9 great sects in the world, one of the pillars of the strongest sects in Shanxi, along with the Huashan mountain sect, the place where the sword deities are located. Young Shin wanted to meet them in person. The reason why Young Shin was forbidden to show himself to important guests was because his mother died giving him life. The servant said it was the head's order. Yeon questioned his father. The servant apologized to Young Shin after saying that. After thinking for a while, Yong decided that nothing would happen if he looked from afar. There was much to learn from such skillful craftsmen. There were people standing at the entrance of the pavilion. Everyone was wondering who was there. Certainly not a dragon with a heavenly sword, maybe an elder. People were discussing if people like them really came here. It would be an honor for the clan. Young Shin's father, along with his 2 brothers, were also here. They were greeting the guests. Young Shin heard that they were already here. The martial artists of the Zhongnan sect had arrived. To everyone's amazement, the first to enter the pavilion courtyard was a female noble. Young Shin recalled in books. They are described as mysterious beings who can live forever. Some people thought they were deities. This aura around her, The main energy concentrated in her body comes out naturally. Head Jong Dae-hyun said he was honored to welcome her into their humble clan. He introduced himself and bowed courteously. The guests thanked him for such a warm welcome. Yeo Il-shin, an elder of the Junnan sect, introduced herself. Jong Dae-hyun heard that the Jongnan sect elder of the noble race apologized for not recognizing the deity in front of him. Yeo Il-shin replied that it was not necessary. She wasn't here to brag about her status. Chong apologized that the guest had come a long way, and he had made the sword gods of the Jongnan sect wait outside. He said he would escort her inside. Young Shin wondered if the noble race elder of the Jongnan sect had been there for a long time. Father led the guests inside the pavilion. People looked at Yeo Il-shin with admiration. Someone even fell into an earthly bow. But then, a strange thing happened. Out of the entire crowd of gawkers, Yeo Il-shin's gaze settled intently on Yong. He bowed respectfully. Jung Dae-hyun said that this child was his third son. Il-shin noted that he is quite unusual. He seems to be a very intelligent child. Yeon left. The father apologized to Il and said his son had bad manners. She doubted it. Jong explained that, but he's a troublemaker in their family. Young Shin went to the training room. He had hope after seeing the energy of the martial artists of the Jongnan sect. After learning the Chong clan's arts, he didn't know how to develop further. Therefore, he wondered what to dedicate his training to. Now he decided that it would be good to train with swords, so he picked one up. While in his room, the comrades who had come with Il-shin were talking about how this place was better than they thought. With so much earth energy, the Tyrant Sword Clan would want to get their hands on this place. Il-shin replied that they would come here sooner or later. Therefore, it was worth thinking of a counterattack, but most likely the clan would have to be sacrificed. One of the men asked if they could attack them and destroy them before they got over the walls. Il-shin sipped tea from her tea bowl and thought that although it would be great if that happened, among the 13 heavens, the Tyrant Sword Clan was the most troublesome group. Il-shin ordered her comrades to remain vigilant and keep their swords at the ready. Those replied, "Yes, ma'am." She continued to drink her tea, but all her thoughts were only occupied with that child. He stood out from the rest. What a strange child. Night fell. Sitting in his room, Young meditated. He couldn't understand why his Bai Hui was so open. Even though he had hardly meditated for a year because of the training of the Chong clan's techniques, the amount of energy flowing through his head had become even greater. If this continued thinking less than half a decade and he would pass out. The realization that if that happened he had about 5 years left to live broke Yong away from meditation. He became afraid. Young Shin went outside to calm down a bit and put his thoughts in order. Looking at the starry sky, he pondered. Even though he had fully mastered the Chong clan's movement art, he couldn't stop it. But suddenly, he felt something. What was happening? He felt an ominous energy coming from the direction of the main house. Taking his sword in his hand, Young Shin ran over there. Something was wrong. The closer he got to the house, the stronger the smell of blood was. The house was too quiet. As he approached the entrance, he saw a formation trap. As he stepped inside, he saw dead people lying in the yard. He didn't even realize that something like this was happening in the Chan manor. Young thought it might be because of that trap. All the dead people of the Jong clan? How strong are the attackers? He heard someone else's voice that there were survivors. He saw a group of thugs. One of them was approaching Yong and saying how stupid he was. If he was able to save his skin, he should have hid instead of crawling out. Another of the attackers replied that he had decided his own fate and ordered him to finish him off. The first thug said he heard him. Orders are orders. Sorry, kid. The enemy wanted to grab Young Shin with his huge hand, but he easily twisted his arm thanks to his endless energy. Seeing this, the bandits grabbed their swords and the eldest shouted, "Who is he?" Young Shin pulled out his sword and said that he was the third son of the head of the Chong clan and headed towards the bandits. The one who attacked him first shouted and tried to grab him from behind, but Yan severed his head with a single swing of his sword. The group of thugs were shocked by what they saw, but in the next second, Young Shin was already actively attacking all the opponents. In the blink of an eye, he was able to kill all the thugs. They didn't even have time to react and repel the blows. As he exhaled, Young Shin thought that this was his first training with the marvelous sword, but he understood the essence of the action. Just then, another group of strangers entered the courtyard. One of them looked at what was going on and said that it was nothing special. He concluded that those idiots were killed because they let their guard down. Looking at Yong, he said it was amazing how he could be so strong at that age. Did he spend his whole life practicing the marvelous sword? Young Shin recognized these people. He asked if they were from the Blood Flame clan. His opponent said no. Those guys under his feet are from the Blood Flame clan. He's from the Sword of Tyrant clan. Yong thought for a moment. They say that of the 13 heavens, they are the most violent and powerful in all of Marima. They want to say that these clans are here. Why? Young Shin asked what the two clans of the 13 heavens could be doing here. In response, he heard that it was none of his business. Yang Shin asked if his opponent knew who he was, since he was answering his questions and not attacking. The man hesitated. Shin asked if he knew that his family was part of the Desolate Fortress, the best sect in Murama. Therefore, even if he defeats Yong, he will suffer significant wounds even though he belongs to the Sword Tyrant clan. Suddenly, a part of the fence seemed to shatter from the explosion. A wounded man from the Zhongnan sect flew into the courtyard along with the shards. Yong recognized him. Next to Yang Shin, Elder Yeo Il-shin landed, clearly fending off an attack from someone. Her ear was torn. Il-shi sat on the ground leaning on her sword while catching her breath. Looking over the destruction, Yang thought this girl is known as a sword goddess. But even she is in confusion. Who is the enemy then? Just then he appeared. A man floating in the air. He slowly descended to the ground. Young Shin felt that he was emitting an ominous energy. The man stared at Young Shin intently. The man felt all his thoughts fly away from just looking at it. The group of warriors standing in the courtyard kneeled down and greeted the clan head. Yong realized that he was the man who ruled the Sword Tyrant clan and was considered the harbinger of disaster in Jianghu. Why would someone who is considered equal to the head of one of the 9 great clans be in a place like this? Looking at Elder Il-shin, he realized in any case, if things continued like this, they would die. Yong Shin thought that was not the case and attacked the head of the Sword Tyrant clan. The warrior closest to the head of the clan saw the attack coming, but didn't have time to draw his blade to repel the attack. He was defeated. Young Shin straightened up and asked the leader if he would destroy him after this. The other warriors drew their swords and wanted to attack Young Shin, but the leader stopped them. He said that his spirit was better than all the others present. His minions were amazed. The head seriously praised the brat. The head looked at Young Shin intently and said that he would keep him alive. Young took the sword and asked the chapter couldn't destroy him, because he was the only grandson of the former Desolate Fortress Divine, Sword Squad's former Divine Sword Squad leader. Elder Il-shin was surprised to hear that this guy is the grandson of the former commander of the Divine Sword Squad, the same one who is the best squad of Desolate Fortress. The head replied that the Desolate Fortress was created by the Imperial family to prevent Muram's plot. It's not a good idea to mess with them, but that's not the reason he'll let Yon live. He likes him, his character and spirit. That's what a martial artist in Jianghu needs. If Yang wasn't connected to the desert fortress, the head would have taken him as his apprentice. Everyone present was very surprised, and the head said that he was giving Yang Shin a day to leave this place. The head added that no other clan or sect would set foot on this land. As he left, the leader turned around and said that he would always be happy to fight with Yang. He asked him to find him when he was ready for revenge. Yang Shin and Yeo Il-shin silently looked at the departing warriors of the Sword Tyrant clan. Once inside, Young Shin found his father wounded, but still alive. He took his hand. His father asked why Young Shin was so strong, how he did it. Young Shin replied that it was because of the Chan clan's art of movement that he had created and mastered. The father was amazed to hear that his son had created a martial art. He asked if he had. Yang embarrassedly replied that he had done it using the clan's cultivation technique. The father remembered reprimanding his son for trying to interfere with the clan's martial art, calling him crazy. Jongdae Hyun asked if that was what the son had been practicing since then. Yeon answered in the affirmative. Father said that's how the movement art of the Jon clan is. It is a sacred art, and he cried. He said he was so stupid and rude, and his third son created the sacred art of the Jeon clan. Jongdae Hyun squeezed Young's hand with all his strength. He said that he has the qualities of the head. He is his son. He passed away. Young's younger brother wept over his dead father. A servant stood beside him, holding his sister in his arms. Young asked the courtier how his sister Hyo Ah was doing. He said she was fine. She just fell asleep when her acupuncture point was blocked. It was to hide her from the Blood Flame sect's thugs. Young Shin called his brother and asked him to raise Hyo Ah in the Junnan sect. She has an exceptional connection to the 5 elements, so she will be accepted. The brother asked, what about Young Shin himself? He said he would take care of himself. Il-shin appeared at the door. She called out to Yeon. He asked if the elder was leaving already. She answered in the affirmative. The elder explained that now that the head of the Sword Tyrant had interfered, she should immediately inform the Zhongnan sect. Yeo Il asked what about him. Yeon is going to an abandoned fortress to his mother's family. He answered in the affirmative. There is no place else where he can go to improve himself. Il-shin asked how about going back to Zhongnan Mountain with her. That would be much better. Young Shin replied that it would be an honor to receive such an offer from a great sect elder. She said she would really like him to become an adept of the sect head. Young Shin was astonished by such an offer. Il-shin explained that he could do it. A direct disciple of sect head Junnan would be able to master the absolute sacred arts. Furthermore, The sect head was one of the few top martial artists ranked among the top 10 sword masters in the world. Yang bowed courteously and said that he would not forget this great kindness she had shown him. However, he must apologize. The elder replied no need to worry about it. She wanted someone talented like him. The head of the Sword Tyrant clan probably thought the same. Yan apologized once more. Il Shin said it was fine. The doors of the Junnan sect are always open to him. There was no need to forget about it. Young Shin asked for permission to ask a question. Yo Il said yes. He said he knows she is one of the oldest people among the noble races. Asked if the elder knows how to get fruit from the world tree. Yo Shin was surprised at such a question. Did he? The fruits of the world tree are guarded by the head of the desolate fortress, whom the emperor has recognized as his equal. They say the fruit gives eternal life and youth to those who eat it. It is a treasure of the heaven. He wondered if he couldn't live much longer than his allotted time with the help of this fruit. Yeo Il replied that she hasn't lived half of her allotted time, so she has no power over the world tree. She only knows that the head of the desolate fortress is able to give fruit to people. Young said he had to go to Desolation Fortress. The elder said it won't be easy to get it. It was a sacred item even for them noble races. Young Shin replied that he had no other choice. All he can do is become the commander of the Divine Sword Squad and perform great feats. Il Shin replied that she would support his choice. Now it was time for her to leave to report to her sect. The elder left a swordmaster and an apprentice to help Yang to clean the manor. It was morning. Yang Shin packed for the road. Yang once again thanked the helpers Yeo Il had left behind. The swordmaster said there was no need to thank. They were his clan, and you could say they played a part in this tragedy. Brother turned to Young Shin. He said he understands apologies can't atone for what happened to him in the clan. When they meet again, he'll try to be a good big brother to him. He'll do his best, and hope that Young will be okay. Young said that even though he's late to start learning martial arts, he believes it'll work out. He should train like his life depends on it. Hyo Ah looked at Yeon with her huge eyes. She wanted to say something to him. Yeon instructed his brother to protect her. Yeon asked where the head courtier would go. He replied that there are small branches of the Shon clan in various places in Nanyang. Since the lineage of the Chan clan is alive, he will take care of the remaining one. Yeon said that everyone knows he is heading to the desolate fortress. Hopefully they can see each other from time to time. Since the head courtier is skilled in martial arts, Yeon was sure he could handle it. In parting, Young Shin told everyone to enjoy their lives. He told them to take care of themselves. Everyone looked at Young Shin as he left. The courtier was amazed. He couldn't even remember anyone from the Zhong clan saying something like that. After a while, Young Shin reached Sanyang by nightfall. He stayed at an inn for the night. Looking around, Young Shin thought he was finally here. The deserted fortress is truly incredible. He couldn't help but overhear the conversation between the men at the table. They were saying that the manager here had hit the jackpot. All the booze had run out because of the influx of guests. The taverns have been in chaos lately. The martial artists are getting drunk even though they came to take their entrance exam. Young is thinking Desolate Fortress has entrance exams. Why hadn't he heard of it before? Suddenly, a young man came up to Yeon and asked if he was here to try to take the entrance exam too. Shin was surprised and asked what about him. The guy apologized for not introducing himself. He was just really surprised to see someone younger than himself here. He introduced himself as Hong Wan Chong from Shanxi. That's pretty far from here. In response, Hong Young Shin from Xinei County also introduced himself. Hong sat down at a table and said, "It's not far. It must have been an easy journey." He said that he had to sweat a lot fighting off bandits in the Green Forest and fighting pirates. They were very difficult to deal with. Yan remembered his journey, how he met the bandits. They didn't realize who he was and didn't even have time to see his sword. Sipping his tea, Yeon agreed that his journey had indeed been quite easy for him. Hong Wan moved closer and suggested that maybe they could contract and help each other out on the test. Yan was genuinely surprised to hear about the test. Hong Wan, realizing that he didn't know, told him about the Desert Fortress trials. The fortress is different from martial arts sects. To get in, you have to pass tests that test your knowledge of martial arts literature and other things. That's why there are so many people here. Whether you have experience or not, when you join, they will give you the opportunity to learn. No wonder it's full of martial artists. Many people have studied different martial arts just to pass the test. Desert Fortress is the strongest martial arts fighting group in the martial arts world that inevitably makes everyone's heart race. People would say, if you want to conquer the world with only one weapon, go to Desert Fortress. Because the imperial family had gathered all the elixirs and the best martial arts techniques from all over the world in the desolate fortress. Hong Wan Chang summed it all up. by saying that some say traditional sects are much better, but they don't know what they're carrying. How can a martial group created by commoners be stronger than the desolate fortress? If it were possible, they would have already created an empire. Hong said that almost no one has ever been able to pass the Desolation Fortress test the first time. Maybe 1 in 1,000. But even then, it was usually the heads of the next generation of respected martial arts clan. And so, Hong brought up the suggestion of, how about Yeon taking the test with him tomorrow? Yong continued to drink his tea and agreed. Hong Wan was surprised at how accommodating he was. He said he knew they'd get along. He thought Yeon might be a little confused. He said to just follow his lead. He may not look like it, but Yeon didn't say a word. It's good to know that you just have to pass the tests to get into the fortress. Didn't want to ask his mother's family for help because he doesn't know where they are. The next morning, Young Shin and Hong Wan approached the city gates. In front of them was the desolate fortress. Everyone who came for testing was given license plates. Yan got number 13. While waiting for the test, Hong explained that if the examiner took the plaque away, he had passed. If they asked him to return it to the registrar, it's bad luck. The second exam was a tournament. Yeon asked what about the third one. Hong said it's an interview with the head of the desert fortress. A surprised young Shin asked if it was the head of Desolate Fortress. Hong Wan confirmed. There are martial artists who come to Yangyang just for this chance. Talking to an absolute master is an incredible opportunity. They hope to gain wisdom or advice. The exam host announced the first exam is dedicated to the art of sword swiftness. Participants must demonstrate a single swing using the fastest technique they possess. He would observe and evaluate. Hong Wan shouted that he wanted to go first. He was nervous and volunteered. Yeon realized that he just needed to show off his sword technique. It seemed simple enough. He watched Hong Wan. He had a well-honed spirit. He's strong, stronger than the bandits Young saw on the way here. Hong has accomplished his task. The observers were struck by the extraordinary energy. They'd never seen anything like it before. They didn't even have time to realize anything. Hong WPN stood in front of the judges, waiting for the verdict. The host said, "Not bad," and asked for his plaque. The host said the next test subject stepped forward. A satisfied Hong wished Yan good luck. The gawkers were surprised that this kid also came here to take the exam. The other applicants said that this swordmaster had courage. It was discussed that he was from another province. Where else would he be able to demonstrate his technique in front of a desolate fortress master? Yang approached the examiner. He asked him to begin. In the next second, something happened that not everyone could understand. Everyone present opened their mouths. People were talking without realizing when the sword appeared. Yang had already put his blade back in its scabbard. The examiner thought of the future of Desolate Fortress right here and asked for his plaque. The host looked at the number carefully and told Yeon to stick to his path. Yeon went out after the exam. Hong caught up with him. He asked if he must be the son of a famous family. Young Shin asked if that makes a difference. After entering the Desert Fortress, he had heard that all that mattered was martial arts. Hong Wan asked if he really plans to pass all the tests of the Desert Fortress. Young replied, "That's not why everyone came here." "Yeah, and Hong wants to do it himself." Hong Wan said it's true, thanked him, and said he had to go now. Young looked behind him and hoped that the kind and talkative Hong Wan would pass the second exam. Back in his room, Young Shin started meditating, but the thought of the second exam did not let him rest. It's a tournament where you compete against others in martial arts. He had 3 weeks until the second exam. Given the upcoming exam, the right choice would be to maintain his skills, so he started practicing. He decided to train the Chong clan's movement arts and swordsmanship, as well as the enhanced Q movement technique. 3 weeks later, Young Shin went to the exam. It was announced that until the participant was called, everyone should wait outside the pavilion. Young heard the contestants talking. They were a little discouraged. The examiner is wearing a white suit. That means an entry-level master. But somehow his energy was so strong. Isn't it obvious? Wearing a white uniform means that the future is promising. Young Shin heard someone call out to him. When he turned around, he saw Hong Wan. Hong jokingly said that he had grown up a bit. Young Shin replied that Wang looked good too. Hong punched himself in the chest and said that he had really accomplished something. He asked Yeon if he remembered that winning wasn't that important in this exam. Even just participating in one of the tournament matches is enough to get in front of one of the masters watching the tournament. Hong lamented that this is the hardest part. Yeon asked if even winning 2 tournaments means they can't let you go any further. Hong replied that the problem is that the exam supervisors will have higher requirements today. Yeon asked why. Hong replied that he heard White Keelan is participating in today's Desolate Fortress test. Young Shin asked the White Keelan from Namgung. Hong Wan confirmed. He managed to take down a group of bandits before he turned 15. He beheaded a sword master from an unconventional hidden thug sect. Rumor has it that he defeated all the top fighters at the Dragon and Phoenix 8 Great Families tournament when he was 18. Yeon asked if he is a young fighter from the Namgung family. What is he missing? Why would he join the desolate fortress? Hong whispered, all because he is the child of a concubine. The position of clan leader is not for him. If he rises to the position of Lord of Desolate Fortress, it's equivalent to being the head of the 8 great families. It's more power than a clan leader. Desolate Fortress maintains order in Jianghu, in the heart of the Central Plain. A man walked out of the pavilion and announced Nanyang Hainam Province, Xin-Yi Chong Yongxin District. They are asked to come out. As he left, Yong told Hong that he hoped to see him again here at the Desert Fortress. Once inside, Yeon saw that his opponent was much older. The announcer announced the start of the fight. Nanyang laughed as he looked at Yong. He said he must be desperate, not knowing his place in the world, reminiscent of a moth circling in the light of a lamp. But his opponent's speech was interrupted by Yong's sharp and precise punch. After his attack, the opponent didn't get up. The already established disciples of Desolate Fortress were watching the duel. One of them stepped forward and asked for permission to try to fight with Yongxin. The other disciples looked at Yongxin and discussed who would take him on. He seemed stronger than them. When the volunteer came out, Yongxin heard the conversation that they didn't expect anything less from Namgung. Yongxin was amazed. Is this guy really Namgung Hua Shin's White Qilin? The viewers were discussing whether or not they could witness the Boundless Heaven technique today. Shin thought this guy seemed to be about 5 years older than him. He doesn't seem to be at a level he can handle. Thanks to his family's martial techniques, Yong is in better physical shape than him, but he's inferior in other aspects. The opponent is Namgung Hua Shin of the Namgung clan. He mainly practiced the Boundless Heaven technique and endless steps. Zhong Yongxin introduced himself, said that he had trained in the movement arts of the Zhong clan. Namgung drew his sword. Seeing that Yong didn't take his sword out of its sheath, he asked in surprise if he was going to use it. Yeon said nothing. He got into a fighting stance and touched the hilt of his sword. Yang pondered the main essence of the technique he has been practicing lately is unpredictability, an unexpected basic attack in an unpredictable rhythm. If he succeeded, he could make the opponent let his guard down. The announcer commanded the start of the fight. In the next second, during Yeon's attack, his sword was broken in half by Namgung's sword. Yongxin was very surprised by what had happened. He looked at the fragment of his blade in confusion. The observers said that Namgung had won. White Qilin. What a terrifyingly marvelous sword. To everyone's surprise, Namgung declared that he had lost. All the observers couldn't understand what he was talking about. The disciples were talking amongst themselves that Zhongyon Shin is such a terrifying and admirable sword. He is younger than Namgung by at least 5 years. Can't he use true energy in his techniques? There was a powerful martial artist lurking in Henan. It was scary to imagine what Young Shin would become. The examiner clarified his name was Zhong Yong Shin. He answered in the affirmative. The man explained that if he went to the north, he would see another garden. He should wait there. Bowing respectfully to Namgung, Young Shin said that he would be very happy to fight him again. Namgung replied that he wanted to say the same thing. We'll be looking forward to it. In the garden, Yang saw a few other guys. They were amazed that someone so young could pass the second exam. They thought Namgung would enter first. Young analyzed what had happened. He knew there was no chance of winning if the fight dragged on. So, he used the extreme sword form he knew. However, because Namgung filled his sword with true energy, his sword broke. On Yong's side, it was a setback due to the reckless use of an admirable sword. But instead, the White Qilin recognized his defeat. Yong assumed it was the nobility of a famous family. The disciples were discussing whether or not Yong couldn't utilize true energy in his techniques yet. The Jeon clan is the third-ranked branch of the clan in Xinyi County. If there was someone at home who knew how to use such a skill, Yong would have never learned it. However, now Yongxin knew it. He only realized how to see better when he saw his mistake. Now he realizes it's not as simple as putting his energy into a sword. He can use his true energy as a means to become one with the sword. The guys in the garden were very surprised to see Yang resonate with the sword. They said it was impossible. He's too young. Young Shin at this moment felt as if the sword and his body had joined together. It must be the union of body and sword, a new sword technique that he would use. Yong returned to his normal state. He was smiling. Suddenly he heard a greeting of enlightenment. It was Namgung. Looking around, Yong thought Namgung was protecting him out of fear that someone might get in the way of his enlightenment. Young Shin said he didn't know Namgung was protecting him. He thanked him for that, and congratulated him for passing the Desert Fortress test. At that moment, Hong Wan came up to the guys. He said he's actually here too. Yan congratulated him. He congratulated him in return. Hong Wan asked if Young Shin knew he had a nickname. He was very surprised to hear that. When someone showed exceptional fighting prowess or attracted attention, people would give them a nickname and then refer to them that way. Most nicknames represented a great honor for martial artists, not counting those who committed chilling acts. Swordsman of the Cliff First Neutral Spirit and White Qilin are all nicknames. Namgung confirmed that he had heard of it as well. Yan was surprised that he had just passed the test. It turns out he was nicknamed Lightning Genius. Lightning technique, lightning skill. If even the Desolation Fortress martial artists call him that, Namgung said that it's Yong Shin's nickname in Jianghu Lightning Genius. Yan didn't believe it. He said what made them think that the elders wouldn't banter that way about someone who was a little deft with a sword. Namgung replied, "If it's not much for Yong, he's a total zero. Does he realize that? The lightning-fast genius Zhongyun Shin. It's a name he wouldn't have dreamed of when he was training at the John Manor." All the finalists were asked to gather around the host. He announced that the last test was left. Whoever passes will join the Desolate Fortress. Young Shin looked at the building. There he was waiting to meet a living part of history and one of the strongest martial artists, the head of the Desolate Fortress. The applicants were invited into the building one by one. Everyone came out rather quickly with a confused look. Looking after those leaving Yong, wondered if the head just looks and does not say anything. And then the name Yong Shin was called. As he entered the building, he saw a staircase. He was told to go to the top. At the top was a big, beautiful hall. As he walked through it, he felt energized. On the opposite side, a man of noble race was sitting on an ornate sofa. Yong thought with admiration that this man was the head of the Desolate Fortress, considered to be the strongest in the world. He introduced himself. The man turned to him. It was a girl. From the first seconds of the conversation, she stunned Yong by saying that he was related to the child in question. He was astonished and asked her what she meant. He thought she knew his mother's family. The head replied that he seemed to have figured it out. He's not a shy person. Young replied that he was the grandson of a former Divine Sword Squad leader. The head said that he would soon become part of the Council of Elders. This person isn't the type to just give up. She asked Young Shin if he was injured. He replied that it's not worth worrying about. It's just a family matter. The head replied that he doesn't think so. It's just that everything is hidden by his trained body. He probably only lived for about 15 years. She agreed that an outsider shouldn't get involved, but it's still a problem that needs to be solved. Young apologized, and himself thought the extraordinary appearance she radiates as a person with absolute power is the topic of conversation, not his problems. The head stood up, said she liked him. Funny he didn't bow his head, though he came here for a reason. There is something he really needs. Young looked at the head carefully. She knows he came for a purpose, and she knows that his Bai Hui acupuncture point is too open. He decided he should check with her. He asked if someone like him could survive if he ate the fruit of the world tree. The head replied that there is no absolute information about that right now, but he would be able to get what he wanted. Young Shin bowed courteously and thanked her, and said that was enough for him. A little confused, Yang asked if he was now a Desolate Fortress martial artist. The head smilingly replied yes, and said that he could now go as the next commander of the Divine Sword Squad. Walking towards the exit, Yang thought about the words about the Divine Sword Squad leader. He didn't understand if she was teasing him, or if she saw some potential. Or was it a clue that he could receive the fruits of the tree if he became a squad leader? After passing the final test, there were only 4 successful candidates left. The person who was leading the candidates to the next location asked if they knew what the main objective of the Desert Fortress was. Hong Wan asked if it wasn't to uncover the insidious plans of martial artists. The attendant agreed, but he said that's not all. The task is much bigger than that. There are certain procedures that must be followed. It also includes preventing or suppressing conflicts in the martial arts world. No one can predict how a battle in the martial arts world will turn out. These days, the land is filled with rumors of the revelation of the new location of the heavenly demon tomb. The central plains might be flooded with blood. If those who hunger for secret techniques and elixirs only fought among themselves, it would be okay. The cruelty of greedy masters affects not only other masters, but also the common people. Catching this was like going back to the pre-imperial period. Hong Wan recalled the information about the heavenly demon tomb incident. The man said that 17 years had passed since that terrible moment. He said that the problem wasn't just Samvido. The old factions and the 8 great sects were also adding to the trouble. If left unchecked, the common people would suffer. And if the people are dissatisfied, it will create problems for the government. That's why the imperial family is spending a colossal amount of resources to maintain this place. So Desert Fortress set them the task of eliminating martial artists who distort the people's normal pace of life. The apprentices realize this means beheading enemies who interfere with people's lives. An attendant led the candidates to the building where they would live. Once they were settled in, they would be assigned according to their grouping and given everything they needed. A week later, young Shin sat in his room, thinking that the assignment was taking longer than expected. Hong Won knocked on the door and asked for permission to enter. Yeon allowed it, asked why he had come. Hong said he heard a rumor that the distribution was over, and they would be in the same battle group, Multiplies. Hong Won asked if young Shin had heard the rumors. He asked what kind of rumors. The leaders of the 17 martial groups under the leadership of Shin Dan were participating in a competition to select new martial artists. Young thought that means the leaders of the martial groups represent the desolate fortress. Young Shin asked Won if he meant that the faction leaders had to compete with each other. Won agreed. Hong Won jokingly said that a lot of people just want a nickname like White Killin or Lightning Genius. The next day, the boys went to Ma Guanig's combat training camp. They looked around studying the other disciples. Ma Guanig's leader was Ma Jin. He claimed the title of the strongest among the 17 leaders of Desolate Fortress. There was a strong argument for it. Ma Jin walked over to the guys and clarified if young Shin is really a lightning genius. Ma Jin said seeing his spirit. Such people don't give up easily. He said the fighting force under Shin Dan in the Desolate Fortress is something like a sect in the Central Plain. Here they will learn martial arts and carry out missions. The boys present here are their senior mentors. Hong Won turned to Mr. Ma and said he had a question. Ma Jin told him to speak up. Hong thanked him for the opportunity. He asked they said they would be learning martial arts. But does that mean everyone will learn the same martial arts? Ma Jin replied that it doesn't. Everyone will learn an individual style, but naturally their knowledge is limited to Ma Guanig's techniques. Hong Won howled at the famous Ma Guangyol. Ma Jin replied that hard training is necessary for survival. Young Shin thought for a moment. He had heard of this technique before. Ma Guanig is a rather famous faction among the 17 forces led by Shin Dan. They had once faced off against 24 elite masters of the Hwasan sect in battle, and didn't lose a single fighter. This incident only strengthened the faith of those who believed that Desolate Fortress was unrivaled in the world. Ma Jin explained that the Desolate Fortress belongs to the Huangli sect. Here, attacking a martial artist of the sect is not considered treason. Therefore, they can challenge the strongest to learn and improve. Yong was surprised that it wasn't treason and asked why. Ma Jin replied that there were too many unconventional fighters in the martial arts world. Some practiced demonic arts to the point of memory loss, and some had simply mastered mind-blowing arts that allowed them to slip past the strongest masters and escape into hidden valleys. Simply put, even if they practiced in the Desolate Fortress for a long time, it doesn't give them any advantage in the eyes of the imperial family. That's why it's so important to do everything in their power to become stronger. Otherwise, it's doom. However, if they go on a mission once and come back with Namgung Cheolgoma's sword wound, they will know what he is talking about. One of the guys sitting against the wall called out. He said, yes, Jiwangum Hyung is really scary. Yong knew that Jiwangyoma Hyung was a world-class technique that only the rightful heir of the Namgung family could master. And if it's Namgung Cheolgoma, isn't he considered one of the strongest masters among them? Yon looked at the guy and couldn't believe that he had actually encountered this technique and survived. The guy walked over to the guys and said to start with the lightning genius. Heard his sword was unrivaled. I'd like to see for myself. Young Shin walked to the middle of the room and stood in front of his opponent, ready to fight. The guy introduced himself as Cheon Myung. He was born and raised here in Yangnan. Young Shin also introduced himself. Cheon Myung replied that he understood. A backwater also exists. What to say? Yang Shian demonstrated his swift sword skills. Cheon Myung replied that even a 10-year-old child is capable of catching wind with a sword as long as he practices. Only in a real battle does it become clear what you are good at by your swing. Young Shin listened and thought about the swing, but he was wary. Cheon Myung said, since he was able to be here at this age, he's quite talented. He asked me to show him what he can do, unlock the potential of the sword. Young Shin agreed. The observers were surprised to hear that it was black. Young Shin commanded himself to concentrate. He read the energy of his opponent's breath. At a certain point, he realized that this was the moment. He attacked with a swift sword, but Cheon Myung was able to easily repel the attack. Yon didn't even realize when he had time to raise his sword. He survived against the sword of Namgung Cheol, a true master. Yong went on the attack again, thinking that it was easier than it looked. He decided to take a risk. Another attack, and Cheon Myung again managed to put his sword out to defend himself. In an instant, Cheon Myung vanished into thin air. Young Shin didn't realize how he disappeared, but the next moment, he felt that he was close. behind him. Young Shin reacted lightning fast and was able to counterattack. He even knocked the blindfold off Cheon Myung's head. All the guys in the room were sweating from the tension. Seeing the opponent without headgear, Young Shin thought as expected that Cheon Myung was from the noble race. Next, Young Shin wanted to try resonance with the sword, but then he noticed that everyone around him was so tense. He looked around and didn't understand why all the guys were so stunned. Yan gave up on his plan and asked Cheon Myung if he had anything to say. Cheon Myung was confused. Young Shin said he knows he let him make a few put-downs, asked him to be honest with him. Cheon Myung asked how old he was. Young Shin said he was 15, asked if it mattered. He scratched the back of his head and added that the enemy usually doesn't care about age. Only real accomplishments matter, right? Cheon Myung was very surprised to hear 15. Young thought, what difference does it make how old one is if it's a matter of life and death? But the other guys were shocked too. Such skill at 15. They started talking about how unbelievable it was. Heaven itself must have made a mistake. Having been to the Dragon and Phoenix tournament, they have never seen anything like this. Even if one has studied the path of perception since birth, to reach such heights is something. One said that he was considered a rare talent in his district. The other replied a rare talent might as well freeze forever. Cheon Myung grinned and put his sword back in its scabbard. The discussion stopped and the daily work began. After a while, the guys chuckled as they watched Ma Jin train Hong Wan. Ma Jin said at the end of the ordeal, at least he stood up to it. We need to analyze this and learn a lesson. Hong Wan was soaking wet from the exertion after the training session and replied that he understood. Meanwhile, Young Shin was quietly practicing the technique. Ma Jin asked if he had already understood everything. He understood the essence of the principles. Yang asked Yun Tun Mue this. Ma Jin said correctly. No matter the situation, the body is always capable of movement. And uninterrupted smooth flow is the true essence of Ma Guanig's techniques. Next, he needs to comprehend the secrets of the path of martial arts. Young Shin asked about the secrets of the martial arts path. Ma Jin said that it's better to see once than to hear 100 times. He led the boys to a concrete lantern and told them to watch. He began to pour all his power into it. Then at a certain moment, Ma Jin hit the statue once and it shattered. He explained the perfect moment and the optimal strike. His martial arts path draws this trajectory for him. If you follow the martial arts path perfectly, you will achieve a perfect strike. In other words, understand when and where to strike. It will be difficult to master this with just one look, but it's a skill that only comes with practice. It's something you'll have to work on for the rest of your life. Yang was surprised to hear that he would have to work on it all his life. He thought he could do it now. Young Shin began to listen to himself. Ma Jin asked, he decided to give it a try. Walking up to the concrete lantern, Yang thought that the way of martial arts is just instinct. He is just required to follow the instinct on the bottom line. En came into resonance with the sword, slowly discarding the unnecessary. Concentrating, Young Shin saw the matrix of the object in front of him. He immediately identified the vulnerable spot. One sword swipe at that exact spot and the concrete block shattered. Looking at the result of his actions, Young Shin thought that this was the secret of the martial arts path. He had grasped the basics of Ma Guanig's technique. Now, all he had to do was to practice it in real combat. Looking around, Young Shin again saw the stunned faces of the guys around him. Young Shin thanked them for the lesson. Ma Jin replied that he should now think hard about how to teach him. The next day, rumors spread around the desolate fortress that Ma Guanig's elders had recently clashed with the Chuncheon faction. Young Shin asked, what about the laws of the desolate fortress? Isn't fighting outside of the training grounds for punishment? He asked Hong Wan what the fight was about. He said it seems that a disciple of the Chung Han group got into a drunken brawl. He said that you can't learn anything under Jin's leadership in Ma Guanig. Yeon wondered if that was the reason. Hong Wan replied that Yeon clearly doesn't understand the martial arts world. That's the way things work in this place. One careless word can turn into conflict. It's only by overcoming it that you build your reputation and wander freely afterward. Hong Wan asked Young Shin, any victory is something to be proud of, isn't it? Their elders are just protecting their newcomers. If they told him that, he wouldn't know what to do. Young Shin assumed they had a personal vendetta against Ma Guanig. Young Shin thought seriously. This is a good opportunity if you want to obtain the fruits of the world tree that is revered by all. You have to achieve a lot. For that, powerful allies are needed. It is said that brave warriors must owe their lives to fraternize. He realized that it would be a good idea to make them his debtors beforehand. Young Shin said he thought Hong was right. If the elders even bare their swords because of him, he can't just let it go. He'll go to them. Hong Wan shouted after him. That's the spirit. He knew he had the feelings of a true warrior. As he approached the square, Young Shin thought that this was how real warriors really lived. The people present were surprised. They asked if they were new. Someone asked if they had no training today, but they still came to train. Diligence. Asked why so hard at the beginning stage. Respect is more important at this level. Young Shin and Hong Wan came up to Ma Jung and bowed respectfully. He asked them about any problems with their training. Young said he wanted a duel. Ma said to pick an opponent. They would gladly agree. Yan said he's not from Ma Guanic's group. He wants to duel with someone from Chunshin. Everyone around him froze. Ma Jung replied that it must be because of yesterday's fight. There's no need to worry so much. Young thought he didn't care, but he replied that he just admired Chunshin's techniques for a long time and wanted to try them out personally. Mei Jin said no way. What enthusiasm. He thought he liked that he shared the feelings of his elders. Yan said he wanted to fight with the famed sword art using Ma Guanig's true form. Asked the master for permission. While the head was thinking, Yang planned to gain experience and try out other techniques. He would also gain the trust of his elders. A triple benefit. Ma Jin said he'd never seen Chunshin's techniques. He's never fought side by side with it. A duel is not a problem. Chunshin will not be spared. Young Shin said that's exactly what he wanted. There was silence for a moment. But after a moment, talk began. That's the spirit of a true Desolation Fortress leader. I can't wait to see him in the future. If he succeeds, he's worthy of leading the Ma Guanig faction itself. Under pressure, Ma Jin agreed. He said he would relay his request to the head of Chunshin. It was the day of the showdown with Chunshin. The spectators whispered if the white man really challenged the blue man to a duel. Someone corrected that it was just a practice sparring match to be exact. Chunshin officials were wondering how long Yan would last. They gave a maximum of 10 seconds. They were sure how a white-clothed rookie could last more than 10 seconds against a blue-clothed rookie. It's incomprehensible. Ina next to Ma Jin, Han Chulmok, the leader of the Chunshin group, was watching the fight. Han Cholmok said if this newcomer lasts 10 seconds, he is willing to bet one of Chunshin's spiritual pills. Ma Jin asked the spiritual pill is not too big a bet. Han asked he was scared. He thinks he's going to lose. Ma Jin replied not to tease him. Spiritual pills are not nothing. Han Cholmok said Ma Guanig and Chunshin's honor is at stake. He really thinks the latter would make a joke. Ma Jin answered well and accepted the bet. Han answered it perfect. A leader has a duty to believe in his subordinates. In the arena, a student from the blue asked the white one from Ma Guanig. His name is Zhong Young Shin. Yang confirmed and bowed courteously. Yang glared at his opponent, a warrior in blue robes. Everyone starts with white, but if he advances in his trade, he will get blue. And time doesn't matter here. Sometimes it takes over a decade to go from white to blue. But even the greatest masters are considered blue. The opponent said he's been training the Chunshin sword for 20 years. They say the sword has no eyes, but the sword of a true master definitely has eyes. He warned that he wouldn't hold back in that sparring session. He asked Yeon to take that into consideration. The opponent drew his sword, and a strong energy flowed from it. Yan thought, wondering what kind of sword ordnance the blue Chunshin warriors use. Young Shin tried to push away unnecessary thoughts. It didn't matter what the opponent was skilled at. He was here to reveal his skill. The blue warrior stated that he would concede the first move to Young Shin. He agreed. Young Shin took advantage of the play of time and went on the attack. The opponent repulsed the attack. Yan noted his speed. Han Chulmok was surprised. He asked if it was indeed the white man's speed. Looking at this youngster's skills, one would forget to even breathe. But with Young Shin's experience, the only option to win was to seize the initiative now. Young Shin realized that the play of time speeds up the mind. He had grown a lot since he came here. The principles of martial arts accumulated in a body tempered by his clan's movement arts. He analyzed the curvier the sword's trajectory, the more the back muscles are engaged. If he applied rotation, the energy would form a vortex. He seemed to have mastered another technique. A few spins, and the opponent was left without his sword and with Yona's blade at his neck. The silence of the pavilion was broken by Hong Wan's exclamation that the white man had won. Putting his sword away, Yeon realized that he was lucky. He had won because a sudden flash of inspiration had added strength to his momentum at just the right moment. If they fought again, things might turn out differently, and it wasn't certain that Yang would win. Young Shin thanked his opponent for letting him enjoy his awesome sword skills up close. It was a glorious fight. His opponent picked up his weapon, replied that Yeon's skill is not commensurate with his age. He's amazingly gifted in swordsmanship. As he was leaving, he said his name was Zhongyeon Shin. He's so young, but his strength is incomprehensible. He was walking and talking as if to himself, that Ma Guanig had gotten the treasure. It's enviable. Ma Jin silently extended his hand to Han Chulmok. He was clearly not happy with the result. Zhongyong Shin heaved a sigh of relief. He thought he would call this new technique Chukma Gyeong. Ma Jin called out to Young Shin and threw a small box into his hands. Opening it, Young Shin was pleasantly surprised. It was Chunchin's spiritual pill. Ma Jung said it rightfully belonged to him. After the battle, all the Blue Warriors were depressed. They said he was really a monstrous guy. Bai Mei, nicknamed Sword Yilian, said that defeating an experienced swordsman like Blue-Winged Fang from Chunchin was really something. After thinking for a while, she added that he was not only talented and hardworking, but also humble and polite. Plus, his unique ability to grasp things on the fly. Cheon Myung replied that he hasn't seen such potential yet either. Bai Mi said every time she uses a technique in sparring with someone else in Young Shin's presence, he easily recreates the same moves in a new refined form. It's even somehow embarrassing to use mediocre techniques in front of him. Some innate ability to capture the very essence of the techniques. Cheon Myung confirmed it like he's always known them. He really is a monster. Meanwhile, Young Shin himself was in his room with Ma Jung. He said he didn't know how much of the pill Young Shin could absorb. It's usually around 60 to 70%, but depending on the circumstances, it could be less. John reassured that even if the pill doesn't meet Young's expectations, he shouldn't push himself. Young Shin swallowed the pill. He felt its energy begin to spread inside him. The process of perceiving the pill went active. Meo Jung watched what was happening. Cheon Myung and Bai Ma-le realized they had already started. It was interesting how strong their junior would become after absorbing the energy pill. Ma Jung was surprised. This was Yong's first experience with absorption, but his chui flow didn't waver. He didn't even have to intervene. A while later, Yeo Shin regained consciousness and opened his eyes. His hands were overflowing with energy. Ma John congratulated him. He had fully internalized the pill's energy. Yeo Shin replied that his QE had perceptibly strengthened. Ma John was amazed. Could it be that he was able to absorb all the energy by himself without any help? Yeon noted that as his internal energy increased, he could feel things he hadn't even noticed before. All around the perimeter of the area are his elders. Young Shin asked Ma John, who was all guarding him, while he absorbed the pill. He asked his teacher why everyone was so nice to him. Ma Jung replied, "It's not about him specifically. It's natural for a faction to take care of all its members. In the world of martial arts where life and death are often at stake, solidarity is natural. The higher your martial arts skills, the better it is for the Ma Guanig faction." In the evening, left alone in his room, Yong pondered. His internal energy had increased. It wasn't comparable to the chi he had before. He wanted to go and see how much stronger he had become in the training room. Sword Yilian met him in the courtyard. She asked him if he couldn't resist coming here to train. He confirmed. Bai Mei said she too got inspired to train while she watched him fight. Young Shin noticed that Bai Mei was promoted. He congratulated her on it. She replied that it was a small step forward. Bai apologized. She assumed that Yeon wanted to train alone. She suggested sparring. Young Shin replied that solo training can be done any time, and learning from senior sword Yilian was a rare opportunity. The girl smiled and asked to just call her Bai. That would suffice. The guys settled down to practice in the courtyard. Young Shin said that he would start. The sparring began. Bai easily deflected Young Shin's first attack. Her energy was very strong. The victory was hers. Bai praised Yeon. He asked if she practiced Chungyong. Bai confirmed. She said a swordsman who studies Ma Guangyol can't rely on his sword alone. Close combat techniques are extremely effective. Even if your opponent is able to strengthen his body QE, it will allow him to break down that. But Chungyong's effectiveness depends on the ability to properly put internal energy into the strike. Yang has been quite sensitive to Chai since childhood, so he noticed a slight problem in Bai's control and spoke up about it. Bai Mei asked if he was really able to see the movements of Qi. Yang replied that he wasn't really. Bai asked how he knew about the control problems. Young Shin explained that he doesn't see the flow of Qi inside the body. He only observes the flow as it goes outward with the person's energy. Bai Mei replied that even that is hard to believe. This sense of perception was only given to purple-ranked masters. A purple rank master was at the top of the hierarchy of martial arts skill in the Desolate Fortress. First, white, then blue-black, and apogee purple. Bai Mei told Young Shin to tell her his observations. She will take note of them. Yang said if you look closely at her palm technique, it is more suited for Chai investment than any other in his opinion. The very nature of her internal energy seems more suited for close combat techniques. If you put more QE into this technique, it would become much more powerful. Bai replied to Junior that in his opinion, he thought she was some kind of idiot who didn't know how to distribute her internal energy. Does he really think she doesn't put in enough Qi? Young Shin apologized for saying too much and upsetting her. Leaving, Bai Mei said that she was the one who should apologize, thanking Yeon. Bai Malay went to see Ma Jung, told him that young Shin revealed her fighting skills. Asked Ma didn't mention the origin of her skills in Yan's presence. Ma Jung said that's nonsense. Does she really think he would tell Junior something so important? Bai Malay was at a loss. Then how does young Shin know all this? Ma Jung assumed that the latter had an epiphany of techniques that persistently developed from the lost art of divine demon. She replied similarly. Ma Jung said that Yeon is a special guy. Even if you go around the world, it would be hard to find a talent like that. Such a person only comes along once in a generation. Even those whose skills are undeniable will attest to that. Bai Mili asked Ma if young Shin is really at that level. He replied that he is invariably the future elite in the hierarchy. It doesn't matter what others think of him, but you shouldn't dismiss his words as beginner's advice. Bai clarified Ma wanted to say that she should discuss the divine demon art with him. John replied that her self-study has limits, and he doesn't have the time. Under such circumstances, his advice is very much appropriate. Young Shin has the qualities of a great master. He adapts everything he learns to suit himself. Bai wanted to object. Ma interrupted, saying that the only problem is young Shin's character. There's a small assignment coming up. He told Bai to go and see how he copes with the circumstances of life and death with his comrades. It's to see if he's really trustworthy. 5 years. In 5 years, young Shin would surely be in charge of Ma Guanik. At dawn, Bai Mei Li's group of 4 riders, Yong Shin, Cheon Myung, and Han Wave Ne, headed out on a mission. In Bai Malay's mind, the words "go and look at the gut" of their future leader were constantly heard. By the evening of the 10th day, they arrived at the Jingping County Postal Station. Ma reported before departure that someone from the Blood Flame cult was terrorizing the village, regularly destroying livestock and crops. There are factions in Shangxi that could have dealt with this themselves, but recently there has been an incident involving the theft of the Huashan cult's elixirs. Hong Wan was horrified and assumed the stolen pills were Jasidan, comparable to the great Shaolin revival. Zhou replied similarly. The scale of this mission requires the mobilization of the entire Shangxi martial community. They don't have enough resources. Therefore, they have requested help from the desolate fortress. The 4 of them will take care of it. Young Shin wondered about the Blood Flame clan. The locals had sent a request so long ago, and they were only sent now. The Shangxi chief stepped forward and immediately began to grouch. He had always respected Desolate Fortress as the sword of the empire, but what a frivolous attitude. Some suckers had arrived as well. Will they be able to handle the offender? He's not sure. Young Shin asked what he wanted from them. Cheon said many of the local officials are ignorant. They've probably never seen a martial arts master. That's why some equate swordsmen in the emperor's service with their personal janitors. The nobles started shouting, "How dare they? This is unheard of insolence." Young Shin, tired of such a reception, asked conceal his acupuncture speech point. Cheon Myung held his head. He asked if he could talk less and have more time for business. The nobleman started to yell what kind of nonsense this is, but then Yeon turned off his point, said his outrage was of little concern to them. Leaving the nobleman in the care of the servants, the boys walked away from the courtyard. Hong Wan asked young Shin if he had already learned acupuncture techniques. He confirmed it. Hong was surprised and said that he already thought that addressing him as "you" was not very nice. From now on, he would call him Young Master Hong. Young Chong smiled and replied as the Desolate Fortress Divine Guardian wished. Hong Wan squared his shoulders and smiled when he heard Divine Guardian of the Desolate Fortress. Cheon Myung approached Yeon, asked he knows the unspoken law of non-interference. The government and the martial arts world do not meddle in each other's affairs. But unlike other fighters, they can afford a little more in dealing with officials because they act on behalf of the ruling family. It's nice to put fools in their place who think they can tell them off. Such is the privilege of a Desolation Fortress fighter. On the other side, Bai Mi Li came over and said not to overdo it. It came out great though. Hong Wan looked closer and noticed some commotion in the village nearby. He showed his comrade. Young Shin saw a blood flame cultist grabbing a crying child. He didn't hesitate to rush to the rescue first, but a moment later, he was overtaken by Cheon Myung. Looking after him, Youngin thought very quickly. This is the Myung Chosanbi clan's movement technique, but he was also overtaken by the others. Youngin hadn't practiced much in movement techniques all this time. He was a bit out of it in the training room. One of the family was injured. The head of the family demanded that the scoundrel let the child go, but he said the baby was screaming because it was full of life. He brought his sword to bear on the child, but Cheon Myung attacked. Like lightning, he deflected his opponent's strike. The cultist didn't realize what had happened. He stared at the empty hand where the child had been a second ago. But the child was already in Cheon Myung's hands. The enemy saw the desert fortress patch and the blue uniform. Bai Mi Li came over. Wag activated his energy, and with one long jump, he avoided the battle and flew away from the spot. The boys looked at the departing figure and wondered who this guy was. Bai said, judging by his speed, he was expending life force to use such a traveling technique, as expected from the Blood Flame sect. When young Shin and Hong Wan came running in, Cheon Muing had already given the baby to the parents. After settling down to rest, the analysis began. Bai turned to Hong Wan Chan and said that his fighting skills were of the white level, but his stamina was lacking. He should work on that from now on. Zhang Young Shin said that his fundamental skills are surprisingly well developed. This level of skill is rare to find. Looking at the way he moves without using techniques, no one in the Magwanig faction will be able to catch up to him. Even Moon Young, who was soaked, he said who cares about other people's speed. Looking at Zhongyan Shin's Ponero, Cheon Myung asked him to teach him movement technique. Young Shin was startled when he heard about the moving technique. Cheon Myung said it wasn't considered a full-fledged martial art of their clan. It's just a little walking lesson, although most ordinary people can't do it, but he seems to be able to do it. Young Shin was surprised. He could learn the Myung clan's moving technique. Cheon Myung asked him not to get too excited. No one in the Magwanig sect could master it. Bai smiled when Cheon said that he had once taught it to those who wanted to learn it, but no one had succeeded. Although it's called a moving technique, no system in it, Yan saw energy at his fingertips. Although there was no flow activation, Cheon Myung repeated that it's just a walking lesson, and to everyone's surprise, he slowly began to climb up the tree trunk. Young Shin observed that Cheon was doing it so easily that his presence wasn't even felt. This is the Myung clan's technique after all. No chi is used, but something like energy supports the body. Even his descent is like a falling leaf. After descending, Cheon Myung asked how Young In understood. Yeon In replied that he understood. It's some kind of wind created with energy, but it doesn't have powers like the Myung clan. Cheon Myung was surprised that Yeon In realized it just by watching the flow of energy. Young Shin was confused and asked if that's why Cheon showed him the technique. He said that he had realized something from what he had seen, by deconstructing the movements based on martial forms and allocating energy accordingly. Hong Wan sighed that it would be a long time. He said he would go look for a roof over their heads. In the evening, Young Shin began practicing with the energy of nature in his room. Cheon Myung was sleeping in a hammock under a tree when he heard the door creak open and woke up. He saw Young Shin come out into the courtyard. He stood and concentrated for a while, and tried to retrace Cheon Myung's steps. Almost a month had passed. In the morning, Hong Wan practiced in the courtyard. Bai and Cheon watched. Hong Wan said he couldn't believe in that time. Yeon had already mastered the art of the Myung clan well. Swaying in his hammock, Cheon Myung said he wouldn't deny that Yeon has the makings of a great master. Even for their clan, it's not an easy task. Bai remembered Ma Jung's words to her, to look at the gut of her future leader. Hong Wan was worried, asked if maybe he shouldn't have sent Yeon alone. Bai Mani replied that people are too scared to leave them alone. Besides, it's a reconnaissance mission. Young Shin can easily handle it on his own. Meanwhile, Young Shin was running through the forest, reflecting that his ease of speed and distribution of strength was incommensurate with before. It felt so good. Deep in the forest, Young Shin discovered the Blood Flame clan's lair. He was going to go back and inform everyone. But when he saw one of the warriors bending over the body of a small child, he couldn't leave. Yang walked towards the house. The enemy spotted him, put his victim aside, and asked who he was. Young Shin remained silent, but the enemy saw the clothes of the desolate fortress disciple and took up his blade, saying that he was a fool for daring to come here alone. The enemy only had time to shout for Yang to blame himself before Shin's blade lightning took away his head. As he approached the child's body, Yang remembered what they had done to his family, thought he wouldn't leave them alone. He said the child can wait. After he's done here, he'll give it a decent burial. Young Shin moved on to the cabin. He used Magwangola's swift sword. The opponents were caught off guard. Yang said that the Blood Flame cult lives by the principle of survival of the fittest. Then being destroyed by the stronger one is natural to them, isn't it? After destroying the enemies, Young Shin noticed a cave behind the cabin. There was even more energy emanating from it. So it's not just a hiding place for the members of the Blood Flame cult. This is the cult's base. Voices could be heard coming from the cave. They were asking who dared to attack them so recklessly. The outlines of people began to appear. A group of cult warriors jumped out of the cave. The chief ordered to destroy Young Shin. He said he would pay in blood. He shouted that Young Shin would regret coming here. He was thinking about how they were coming. Calculating his trajectory, Young Shin Lightning quickly attacked the opponents in an instant, destroying them all. The energy from the cave intensified. A terrifying voice shouted out the desolate fortress puppy that had set up here. From the depths of the cave, the silhouette of a warrior appeared. Young Shin realized that this sinister energy was coming from him. This warrior was completely different from those he had encountered before. Young Shin had heard rumors that when a person reached a certain level of internal energy, his hair color could change. In that case, it could only be one person. The leader of this cult is the Supreme Master. In the Blood Flame sect, they call him the Blood Demon with a sword. He pulled out his sword and said that Young Shin's efforts would help him quench his thirst for blood. Blood Demon is the title held by the leaders of the Blood Flame sect. Among the lower martial world, they are equated with the Reapers of Doom. There are very few martial artists skilled enough to take them down. Attack first before they approach. That was how Young Shin gained the upper hand last time, attacking his opponent before he could react. Young Shin went on the attack. The opponent asked everyone in the desolate fortress who was so arrogant. Young Shin used a piece of time attack. The opponent reflected it, but took a step back. Then, Yeon used the Myung clan's movement technique and tried to twirl the enemy in an attack. The enemy deflected all the blows. The enemy said it was impressive. Young Shin had his poor family in front of him. He thought he was no longer the same person he used to be. He threw himself into the fight with renewed vigor. The enemy wanted to attack him, but Yeon grabbed his sword arm and twisted it. The enemy screamed and wanted to grab Young Shin with his left hand, but the latter reacted instantly and cut it off. Another moment and the enemy was struck by Young Shin's sword. The demon said there was no way he would fall at the hand of someone like him. Young Shin said that it seemed like he had only hurt others before and had never experienced pain himself. Young Shin sighed and put his sword back in its scabbard. He noticed a pit nearby. When he came closer, he saw the bodies of the villagers in it. He buried them. He said, "Peach blossoms, may they rest in peace." Then he went back. When Young Shin returned with the baby on his back, his comrades were in great shock. Young Shin put the baby in Hong Wan's hands and told him to look it. Hong asked if he was dead. Bai Malay said he was obviously in a fight. What happened? And more importantly, if he's okay. Young Shin said it's not his blood on his clothes. He found the place where the Blood Flame sect has settled. The guys were shocked to hear that Young Shin had found the Blood Flame sect's compound. Young Shin said there were 8 members of the Blood Flame sect, all of them who had been rioting in the village, and a strong man with black and red hair. Bai Malay said if it's black and red hair, it's a blood demon with a sword, so it's one of the Blood Flame sect faction. Cheon Myung said to think they've settled in the neighborhood. Whatever their goals are, this sect is the enemy of Desolation Fortress. It is their responsibility to eradicate this threat. He said that Lightning Genius has accomplished a great deed. He can rest now. Bai and Cheon armed themselves and got ready to go. Yeon said the patrol would only be needed to clean up the bodies. Bai Mi Lee interjected. Lightning Genius wants to say that he defeated the blood demon with a sword and the sect members by himself. Young Shin confirmed that he destroyed everyone. Cheon Myung interjected that he had single-handedly cleared the Blood Flame sect's sect unit base. Young Shin replied that the moving technique Cheon showed him helped him a lot. Bai said that the blood demon had the ability to regenerate. Didn't he even bother Young Shin? Bai said that a blood demon with a sword is hard to defeat. Even those who could were often killed by a stab in the back, without knowing the regeneration ability. Young Shin repeated the words about the regeneration ability, while pulling out the enemy's head. He said that he didn't notice that he had that ability. While the shocked guys were looking at the head, Young Shin thought that regeneration was dangerous. Cheon Myung sighed. Young Shin said that they did indeed have the ability to regenerate. Soon the group returned back to the desolate fortress. Bai Mei Lee and Cheon Myung went to report to Ah Jong about what had happened. After listening to the guys, Ma Jung replied, maybe it was for the best. Maybe they had prevented a lot of deaths. He asked how Lightning Genius had behaved in the critical situation. Bai Malay hummed that he didn't care. Cheon hesitated for a moment and asked about the critical situation. Ma Jung explained that if it was indeed a blood cult, then they were led by a strong leader. For a newcomer in white robes, it was dangerous. Did the elders handle everything themselves, so as not to endanger the younger one? Bai Malay replied that they didn't even see anything. The Lightning Genius went off on a scouting mission. He came back with news of the destruction of the cult offshoot. Ma John asked if they meant to say that he had single-handedly destroyed the place, including the blood demon with the sword. The guys confirmed. Meanwhile, Young Shin and Hong Wan were in their room. Hong Wan was saying how nice it was to be back. He had already gotten attached to this place. He asked young Master Zhong if he thought there was a lot of excitement. Young Shin looked out the window and agreed. It felt like there was a festival going on. Hong Wan explained that it was because the former leader of the Divine Sword Squad was returning. He came to contest the council elder's seat. He's also brought a boy who was adopted from the famous Ipwan Maga family. They say he has incredible talent. Young Shin got nervous when he heard about the Ipahuan Maga family. They are his close relatives, his mother's lineage. but they had never visited San Yan. Not when his mother got married, not after she gave birth to young Shin and left. For them, this marriage is a cause for reproach. After all, they've almost severed ties with their daughter, who married a low-born man. Soon, young Shin was standing in front of Ma Zhong, asked the teacher called out to him. Ma Zhong, looking at young Shin, noted the impressive change. Even his aura had changed. Still, single-handedly destroying the minions of a blood cult couldn't be just luck. Ma Jun motioned for young Shin to follow him. The head was summoning him. Young Shin was greatly surprised. Following the master, he asked if there was ever a case where a newcomer was summoned by the head repeatedly. He replied that he had never. In the courtyard, seeing Yong, there was talk that he was the lightning genius from Guanig who had defeated the blood demon with a sword. I can't believe the white man himself destroyed him. He looks even younger than they thought. Seeing young Ma Jung's confusion, he said it's no wonder they're paying attention to him. After all, he single-handedly destroyed an offshoot of a blood cult. This means that young Shin is already the equal of the desolate fortress masters. Young Shin replied, "Aha." He pondered that his perception of time was different from theirs. He has no time to rejoice in successes. If one wants to survive, one must reach the strength of a divine sword squad leader before he turns 20, from white to blue, then to black robes like Ma Zhong, and finally pass the 17 stages of Ma Guanig. His goal is to reach the purple rank of Divine Sword Squad Leader. They arrived at the door to the head chamber. Through it, Yong heard the head's voice that the visitor seemed to have a grandson, Ma Yung Nok. From behind the door came the reply that this child of the lower kin was nothing to their kind. Hearing the words "Don't disgrace Ipa Hwan Mag," young Shin sighed bitterly. Before the door was opened, Yong heard the other child being talked about. This is the true heir, though, from a side branch. His talent is exceptional. The door was finally open. Ma Jung and young Shin stepped inside and saw the head of a gray-haired old man and a young boy. The head looked intently at young Shin, that he was a bit confused. Ma Jung bowed courteously and greeted the head. Young Shin hurriedly bowed as well. Young Shin looked at the old man and realized that this man was the former leader of the Divine Sword Squad, a purple rank master surpassing Ma Jin. The old man approached him. He asked if he was that lightning genius from Mai Guanig. Ma Yongjok, who once led the Divine Sword Squad, introduced himself. His grandson wanted to compete with a gifted peer. Therefore, Ma Yongjok approached the leader. Young Shin replied that it was a pleasure to meet him, but he realized that his grandfather wouldn't recognize. Ma Yongjok said he'd heard the latest rumors about young Shin, but when he met him in person, he could tell that they weren't even telling the truth. Seeing Ma Yongjok's aura, he said that young Shin is really strong, an incredible level for his age. He bowed courteously and greeted Ma Yongjok and introduced himself as Zhong Young Shin from Ma Guanig. Upon hearing the name, Ma Yongjok was astonished. He asked if his last name was Zhong, then he was the one. Young Shin replied that they were meeting for the first time. From Ma Yongjok's reaction, Mei Jung realized that young Shin was his sister's son. Young Shin was a little disgusted to hear that his mother was Ma Jung's sister. There was a momentary pause in the room. Youngin said in confusion that Ma Jung was his uncle. He apologized for not being familiar with his family's maternal lineage. He confessed that even in the fallen main family, he was considered an outcast. Hearing that the Zhong family had fallen, the people around him were even more surprised. Ma Yongjok interjected. Young Shin wanted to say that the Zhong family had been destroyed. Young Shin realized that they weren't even aware of it. Ma Yongjok asked Madame's permission to speak to young Shin alone. Without waiting for Madame's reply, young Shin apologized and asked if he was a stranger to Ma Yongjok. As a warrior of the desolate fortress, he respects the achievements of his maternal grandfather, but any personal conversations are burdensome to him. The head turned to Yeon saying that she was impressed by the warrior spirit of Ma Guanig. The heir intervened in the conversation, saying that he couldn't accept it. How could someone like him be a direct descendant of his grandfather? And anyway, what disrespect to the previous leader of the Divine Sword Squad. Yong thought to himself as he behaved in the presence of the desolate fortress leader. Yong Shin replied that he didn't need their approval. He is not a member of the Ipwan Maga clan. He reports directly to the Ma Guanig faction. The heir resented the insolence. He asked for permission to fight young Shin. He'll prove that he's not worthy of being related to them by blood. Young Shin calmly replied that it was nonsense. He didn't mind fighting if Madame wanted to test his skills. However, he did not have to prove his worth to the VI, them not their bloodline. Looking at the heir, Young noticed the combat gloves. It looks like he is trained in the typical Ifwan Mag fighting techniques, the head said rather argumentatively. Often friendships are forged in battle, and this boy is a promising talent. So, the best way to resolve conflict is through battle. They can place bets if they wish. The head turned to the lightning genius. She said she realized he had little to gain from it. As a sign of respect for her old friend, she would honor one request of young Shin, regardless of the outcome. Young Shin was intrigued. He asked if he wanted that request. The head realized it was about the fruit of the heavenly tree. She said it was impossible, at least not yet. Even if her late friend personally asked for it, the answer would be the same. The merit of the divine sword squad leader cannot be compensated in any other way. However, the leader could teach Yang Shin one of her signature techniques. Yang thought about a combat technique. The leader of the desolate fortress called, "The best under the sky offers to train him." Looking at the air, Yang realized he was more interested in fighting techniques than defending the honor of his ancestors. Did his mother's family really choose such a person? After thinking for a while, Yang Shin still agreed to duel with the heir to the Ipa Wan Mag. The head led the boys to the courtyard. She said that no one would disturb them here. Watching his opponent put on his gloves and prepare for the fight, Yang thought that at the moment, he was enough to belong to Ma Guanig. Therefore, he was not interested in the connection to his mother's clan and the Ifwan Maga clan. Seeing that his opponent was ready to fight, Yang Shin suggested that he attack first. The heir gathered all his energy into a fist and attacked Yang Shin, but he was able to deflect the blow. Yang thought that the opponent had taken some rare pill. His energy was far superior. Yang Shin used the time play technique. It helped him avoid his opponent's attacks. Yang was amazed at how real heirloom martial arts looked like. Despite seeming soft, these were sophisticated techniques of the noble school. The opponent asked why Yang Shin doesn't pull out his sword. He replied that it was because of their technique. The heir got even more angry. Yang Shin realized that he would put even more energy into the strike. Then he used the Myung clan's movement technique to retreat from the point of attack. Everyone was amazed by what they saw. Yang Shin said he had come up with something to counter the Ifwan Mag Collins technique. He explained that 10 moves would be enough. The opponent didn't know what to say. Yang Shin said he was going to win in 10 moves. Even if he is a genius, it is impossible. Yang replied, "That's not what he meant. He doesn't mean that it's over in 10 moves. He means he'll create a technique in 10 moves, a new fighting technique." The opponent replied that if Yeon says 10 moves, he'll give it his best. He'll show the Hap Hoa fist technique. Yang Shin noticed that the opponent didn't give in to anger. Instead, he's completely focused. You can feel waves of energy emanating from him. There was no way that the Purple Master who once ruled the world was training him frivolously. Yang said, although his opponent mentioned the fist technique, he didn't mind if palm techniques were used. There's no need to list his techniques. The goal is to give his best. He has a lot to show. Ma Yongjok's successor used Chakma Gen's punch. He was met with a counter punch from Yang Shin. He thought this guy has a lot of strength. Mei Zhong noted that the lightning genius hadn't lost any skill during the journey. It had even gotten better. Now, Yang Shin went on the attack and used a double Chukma Gen and managed to break through the defense. Ma Zhong couldn't believe his eyes. Could it be that Yan was inspired by the Hap Hua fist technique he had just seen? The opponent couldn't believe it. Yang Shin was getting stronger with each punch. Yang Shin was telling his opponent to show him more. He can do it. He yelled for Yang Shin not to provoke him. Now Yang Shin went on the attack with a triple Chukuma Gen. The opponent responded with a palm technique. Yang thought this would really be interesting. The opponent shouted that Yang Shin was a redneck. He responded with a quadruple Chukuma Gen. The heir couldn't withstand such an onslaught. He crouched down on one knee, wounded. There was silence for a second. Ma Zhong noted the longer the combination, the stronger the power of the fist became. Grandfather thought that was amazing, to create a new martial art in such a short period of time. Yang Shin, analyzing what had happened, thought that he had finally created a worthy martial art. The silence was interrupted by the head. She said that she had witnessed an amazing sight to see a martial art being created. Yang Shin apologized. He said he hoped he hadn't disappointed Madam. She said not at all. The head asked if Yang Shin had already decided what he would call this fist technique. He replied that he had named it Undying Radiance. The head commented it is a fighting style that endlessly emits radiance. It's an appropriate name for it. Ma Zhong said that Yeon has done a great job. He congratulated Shin for creating an outstanding battle drill. Young Shin looked at his hands and replied that he had laid the foundation so far. This technique is yet to be refined. For now, he is using it in Ma Guanig's style. Ma Zhong said even if so few among the white rank can withstand such a blow. He tries not to be surprised, but the speed of Young Shin's progress leaves him no chance. Young Shin replied that he needs to become even faster. Ma Youngjok approached Young Shin and asked him how he could earn his forgiveness. Everyone was very surprised. The retired leader of the desolate Fortress Divine Sword Squad. He is considered a heavenly deity who has power over people's lives, and such a person bows his head to Young Shin. He apologized. He said it was a burdensome gesture on his part. You can't undo the mistakes of the past like that. For him, his maternal relatives are no different from outsiders. Ma Guanig's family is now young Ma's family. Ma Yongjok replied, because ties can always be built anew. Yeon replied that he's too busy with his training. Yeon defeated Ma Yongjok's grandson in a fight that Ma Yongjok initiated. Young Shin asked him to respect his aspirations as a warrior. The head supported him by saying that, since Lightning Genius had won this reasonable request. Turning to young Shin, the lady said that she had promised to teach one of her techniques so he could come at any convenient time. In addition, he could demand one more thing from the desolate fortress. Young Shin replied that he would pass on the convenient time through the teacher when it came. Ma Jun was very surprised. He thought, since when did he become Young Shin's personal ambassador? Young Shin was on his way to his room. Ma Jung caught up with him. He said there was an assignment that could help him reach his goal. The same group of 4 guys led by Ma Jung headed to Xi'an. The day before, Ma Jung had told them about Jasadon, a rare pill of the Hwasan sect, which is considered a treasure of the martial arts world. The Hwasan sect lost it. Since then, many other sects and martial artists have been searching for this treasure. Young Shin realized there was a commotion among the warriors about it. Ma Jung confirmed it. He said that their mission was to accompany the Hwasan sect in search of the Jazadan pill. They say it's just a joint search, but in reality, it's a necessity to avoid wasting lives. Yeon said, since there will be many skirmishes during the mission, he will have the opportunity to test his sword in real combat. Ma Jung replied that this mission would surely be good for him. Yeon would be able to fight freely with many masters. As he walked through the city, Young's mind was filled with the words that, given his innate talent, he would achieve greater success than by continuing his normal training. His thoughts were interrupted by Hong Wan. He said it was a shame that Desolate Fortress couldn't openly support the sect. They are not allowed to wear their usual robes. The representatives of the Hwasan sect came out to meet the group. The head said that the Desolation Fortress masters had arrived. They were waiting for them. It was Cheonju Jinin, the leader of the Plum Blossom Sword Master, and an unrivaled Great Master. Even the black-clothed Ma Jong doesn't reach his level, but the impression they give is about the same. Cheonju Jining recognized Sword Yilian and Blue-Eyed Demon, Cheon Myung, said there was no point in exchanging pleasantries. Last night's confrontation had set things straight without word. Young Shin was surprised by the reaction of the set representatives. Cheonju Jinin said Desolate Fortress's attitude left a lot to be desired. Even a completely green disciple was taken on a mission. Young Shin realized that he was the one who was mistaken for a disciple of Desolate Fortress, even though he wasn't wearing the official white robes. Ma Jong wanted to reply, but Cheonju Jinin said he believed that even a disciple of the Desolate Fortress was not easy. He suggested that their disciples exchange blows. They could have some fun on the way. Ma Jong realized he wanted to test Yeon, since it's not appropriate for the faction leaders to fight on a joint mission. Cheonju Jinin decided to take revenge through the youth, who will determine future relationships. One of the students of the Hwasan sect said the teacher decided to put him on the spot again. He asked if 5 seconds was enough. Cheonju Jinin said it's a demonstration fight. You have to fight with all your might. The arrogant student snorted as if Yeon could show him something. He had heard that Ma Guanig was based on sensory perception in combat. Young Shin was curious about what the Hwasan sect's martial teachings were. The opponent asked Young Shin if he thought 5 seconds would be enough. He pretended to ask if he had offended Yeon. He apologized because he didn't mean to humiliate him. He said it was just something he did in the morning training, and he didn't even realize what he said. Yu Hyun from the Hwasan sect introduced himself. Hong Wan was surprised. He had heard about Yu Hyun, the hidden dragon. He was said to be an outstanding disciple of the Hwasan sect leader. Bai said he was dubbed the hope of the next generation of the sect. Rumor has it that he's already begun to master the divine art of purple mist. Hong Wan was worried. They want to put such a monster against their Young Shin. Jong Young Shin introduced himself. He put away all the unnecessary things and started kneading his hands. The next second, Yu Hyun attacked with Yangfi. Yan noted that it's a palm-falling petal technique. It's quite varied. In response, Yang Shin used the Undying Radiance First Spiral technique. The opponent wondered what kind of power this was. Meanwhile, Young Shin had already used the second technique of the wall. Yu Hyun repelled the attacks with the palm technique of falling petals. This was enough to inspire Yang Shin to use the third non-fading radiance technique. Young Shin asked for Yu Hyun to last longer. He needed at least 10 strokes. Everyone watched with bated breath as the fight progressed. And then, Young Shin launched an attack like a spiral fire explosion. Yu Hyun was unable to fend off the attack and fell to the ground. Yang Shin analyzed his movements and thought that this attack was a third attack. Calling her Undying Radiance the third move, palm bud. The people of the Hwasan sect were shocked. They were talking about what it was, in 3 attacks. How could a talent from their sect lose? Who was that boy? Cheonju Jinin frowned. He didn't expect such a thing. He ordered the boy Yu Hyun to be brought up. Cheonju Jinin said, "It seems the desolate fortress has raised a dragon. Their grip on the martial arts world is getting tighter." Ma Young asked him not to exaggerate. Desolate fortress still won't touch the innocent. Cheonju Jining said that this is an invariable excuse. Turning to the guy, he asked him if his name was Jong Young Shin. He confirmed it. Cheonju Jinin said that Young Shin demonstrated an outstanding martial art. Looking at Yu Hyun, he hoped that it would motivate even the lazy. If the day came when circumstances forced him to leave, desolate fortress Hwasan would receive him as an honored guest. Ma Jung resented Cheonju Jinin for crossing the line. The one admitted that his greed had clouded his judgment. It was unworthy behavior. Cheonju Jinin said simply that when someone with such a shining talent appeared in front of him, he couldn't help himself. Young himself was pondering at this time. He is a lightning genius. That's a heavy burden. He used almost all the energy he had for the last move. The unblinking radiance expends maximum power on every movement. His internal energy input is too great. For now, it's better to rely on the sword in real combat. After checking into the hotel, the guys talked. Cheon Myung said that Young needs to open his Jundang Meridian as soon as possible. If there wasn't enough internal energy, it would at least increase his stamina. Young Shin was surprised to hear about the meridian. Bai realized he didn't seem to know what he was talking about. She explained that even the Shandan Meridian, which is responsible for the spiritual energy in the head, doesn't provide such an advantage. It will strengthen the internal energy. That means it'll also increase efficiency. I've heard legends of masters who fight tirelessly for 7 days and nights. They all trained the Zhongdan Meridian. The flow of their internal energy became steady, allowing them to repeatedly use powerful techniques. Even after the most powerful release, the flow of energy would not be interrupted. Young Shin asked Cheon if this was the reason why he was able to withstand against Namgung Chil Gom. Yeon asked this meridian how to open it. Bai said if you train the Jedan Meridian for a long time, it will open on its own. You just need to concentrate the circulation of energy in the upper body. Young Shin asked his older sister if there was a faster way. Bai was touched to hear that she was a big sister to him. Later, sitting in the dining room, the boys listened to Ma John tell them that Tu Gui was the culprit, the infamous thief of the northern Yangtze region. It was the same person who stole the secret martial arts scroll. Hong Wan was surprised and asked if they had stolen the martial arts scroll. Bai answered him that it just so happened. Ma Jung replied that from now on, they should eradicate all Sedic signs in Shangxi that are related to Tugui. Hong Wan clarified, what about the Huashan sect? John replied that while they are making a fuss, they will try to get information from within the sects. Young Shin wondered if they should destroy the signs of the martial sects. Cheon replied that he doesn't seem to know the secrets of robbery well. He explained that these people are organizing fundraisers for protection, without even thinking of getting the approval of the imperial family. From the point of view of the empire, the difference between righteous sects and brigands is simple. The peasants donate to the former voluntarily, the latter rob by threatening. Ma John said they are parasites destroying the country. Even if you wipe them out, new groups will emerge. That's why they often turn a blind eye. But you don't need grounds to deal with them. The boys asked how many sects they were targeting. Ma Jung said 5 at first. He'll take 2. Young Shin asked if he can go alone. Ma Jung asked if he's so eager to be famous. But it's too risky. Young Shin confidently said he could handle it, and Zhang replied that fighting alone against a sect is a whole different level. There are too many variables to take into account when he's attacked by the whole group. It's not like a one-on-one duel. Young Shin insisted that he needed that kind of experience. Ma Jung agreed. He said that here and now, the tasks would be divided up. He assigned the lightning genius to target the Tanlin sect in Yanhe Xi'an County. As far as Ma John knows, they're real scum, who don't even bother kidnapping women. Young Shin asked what the mission was. Ma Jung said to completely destroy the sect. He needs to destroy them completely and come back here. The man who was escorting Yang asked if he was really going alone. He said to reconsider. The Tanlin sect are not simple people. They're trained in martial arts. Even one of them can paralyze traffic on the streets of Yanhe. Young Shin asked to know more about the Tanlin sect. The guide said that they settled in Yanhe 3 years ago, taking over the streets. They kidnap women by the dozens and make slaves out of them. Their crimes have long been publicized, but it seems they've bribed a local official. Yan asked about their fighting style. The man replied he'd heard they use different weapons. He had seen them fight from afar a couple times. They wield swords, spears, and oddly curved blades. So fast it's hard to follow with your eyes. With one sword stroke, they can decapitate 2 people at once. Yang realized that this was a haphazard way of fighting from one experience. Young Shin asked how many prisoners they had and what the local government was doing. The magistrate was in league with the Tanlin sect, so there was no one to help. The guide led Yang Shin to Yanhee County. They saw bandits tying up 5 women in the city streets. They were laughing. Young Shin exclaimed that they had earned their reputation. He clarified that they were acting with the permission of the magistrate. He asked if those tied up people were really criminals. One of the bandits threw a blade at Young Shin. He intercepted it and aimed Magwangul's swift blade at the enemy, hitting him in the head. One of the bandits said that he was not an ordinary man, asked where he learned his martial arts. His dagger stance was strange. He's definitely trained properly. The other thug pulled out his sword and said that Young was fast like that, whose martial art was that he had just demonstrated. Young Shin, revealing his sword, replied that it was just 7 random techniques. The bandit saw Young Shin's sword and said it was good. If he presented it to the sect leader, he would be pleased. The next moment, to the surprise of the other bandits, he was struck down by the sword. Then, using Ma Guangul's swift blade, Young Shin killed the rest of the opponents in a flash. The astonished people surrounded Young Shin and thanked him. Young Shin turned to his guide and asked where the Tanlin sect was based. He pointed out the location. Young Shin headed towards the said building. The city dwellers looked on in awe. Yang kicked the doors with one kick. Inside, he saw a large group of thugs. At the center of the steps stood the head of the sect. One of the henchmen reported that this brat had beaten up their students. Looking at the head of the bandits, Young Shin was outraged that he dared to wear a dragon robe that only an emperor could wear. This is treason. The sect leader began to approach Yeon, told his goons not to interfere. He said it's been a long time since he's tasted a sword fight, asked Young Shin if he liked playing the hero. How did he even dare to appear in front of their sect? Yeon asked what his name was. He replied, "Why would a man who is about to die know a great name?" Young Shin replied that one should always know who they are dealing with so that they can claim victory. But the enemy had already attacked by pulling his sword out of its sheath. Young Shin thought it was because he was stronger and could see the sword's trajectory. Young Shin easily deflected his opponent's strike. He didn't realize what kind of power it was. Then the sect leader sent his thugs to attack. They attacked one by one, but Young Shin killed them all with one precise move. Young Shin was amazed that he could see them all now. The energy flow coming from the sect leader, the trajectories of the bandits, their attacks, their evasions, and overcomes all obstacles with ease. After killing almost all of the bandits, Young Shin was already moving towards the sect leader. He was terrified and didn't realize what it was. Young Shin knew that in a battle with a group, he just needed to assert his superiority. Now he imagined that the hand clutching the sword was a fist. He applied a form of stealing division. In a moment, the enemy who had no time to react was already defeated by Young Shin. Young Shin said that today he would destroy the Tanlin sect's signboard. The remaining bandits began to shout what it was. They called him crazy. They shouted for the Blood Master. Young asked if they were talking about a blood demon with a sword. The Blood Flame sect is behind their deeds. He grabbed one bandit. He said that the sword demon was sleeping in the annex. Young Shin realized if it was really a bloody sword demon, he couldn't help but feel a fight of this magnitude. Indeed, an enemy sword was already flying at Young Shin. He easily repelled it. And then a warrior landed next to the sword. He said what a skillful kid. The enemy didn't expect him to be able to fend it off. Young Shin saw a dark, powerful energy coming from the enemy. He really was a blood demon with a sword. Young Shin remembered the conversation with Ma John when he asked for blue robes. Ma replied that when he chopped up 5 blood demons, then they would talk. Then maybe he would be recognized as a blue warrior, despite being so young. Looking at the enemy, Young Shin said he was lucky. Now there are only 3 of them left. The enemy didn't understand and asked what he meant. But Young Shin didn't answer and rushed forward to attack. He thought he had to finish quickly. In front of him is the center of the Tanlin sect. The longer the battle lasts, the lower his chances of winning. The enemy raised his hand to destroy Young Shin, but Young Shin was able to use the undying radiant spiral technique. Young Shin said that he wouldn't let him have the last word and swung his sword at him. The remaining bandits were in a panic. They shouted that it was all over. Young Shin ordered them not to move. A short while later, the townspeople bowed courteously to Young Shin and thanked him for avenging their wrongs. Young Shin's escort wept and thanked him. He said that now their unfortunate women could rest in peace. Young Shin asked Ji An was supposed to be under the protection of the Zhongnan sect. How did they allow this to happen? The guide explained simply, Zhongnan was now actively fighting against the Sword Tyrant sect. Young Shin heard about the battles against the Sword Tyrant sect and remembered his blood enemy. The guide explained that all the Zhongnan warriors patrolling in this area had to return to their mountains. As he set off, Yang thought it was clear that Since the Sword Tyrant sect was the enemy, Zhong Nan was obliged to mobilize all available forces. He realized that destroying a couple of blood demons would not change the situation in any way. Young Shin remembered his family. He decided that he had to help Jun Nan, the 13 Heavens group. It's a powerful organization that wants to dominate Morima. The Desolate Fortress will have to deal with them sooner or later, and thus, the Sword of Tyrant sect that is a part of them. He hoped no one would object to his amateurishness. Maybe he could pick up Tuguya's trail. The bushes rustled and Cheonju Jinin and Yu Hyun walked towards Young Shin. Cheonju Jinin said that it looks like Tanlin is finished. Young Shin replied that it looks like it is. He asked him to accept his regrets. Cheonju Jinin replied that his fighting skills are impressive. He said that he seems to have witnessed the birth of the future leader, Ma Guanig, or even the new leader of the Divine Sword Squad. Cheonju Jinin said that the future of Desert Fortress is very transparent. Yu Hyun turned to Young Shin. I remember him saying something about 5 seconds. It was stupid. He apologized. Young Shin was a little confused. Yu Hyun asked if he was okay with a fresh start. They could discuss a lot of things about Hwasan fighting techniques. Their clans aren't that far apart. After thinking for a while, Young Shin replied that he wouldn't go up to the mountains for such a thing. Yu Hyun was a little taken aback. Young Shin added that he wouldn't chase him away if he came either. However, it was better not to come empty-handed. When Young Shin returned to the hotel, Cheon Myung said that his prayers were justified. Bai walked around Young Shin and said that there seemed to be wounds on his back. She'll apply a healing balm. Ma-Jon asked the Lightning Genius about the status of the mission. To this, Young Shin opened his backpack. Everyone saw the head of a Blood Flame sect member. Ma-Jung said that it wasn't just anyone, but a blood demon with a sword. Cheon patted Young Shin's head approvingly. He said this proves that his past achievements are not just a fluke. Ma-Jung thought again, Blood Flame sect, and again a blood demon, who is considered to possess unusual techniques. Bai Mei-Li replied, "This is nonsense. It's worth recognizing Lightning Genius's contribution is invaluable. He always exceeds their expectations." Ma-Jon said to accomplish the mission of extracting important information, and the enemy's head are all highly valued in Morima. Young Shin said he has something to tell Ma-Jung. He said he wanted to go to the Jun Nan sect. Ma-Jung asked if he wanted to go up to Zhongnan Mountain. Yeon confirmed. He said he was worried about the safety of the sister sect. Ma-Jon said that news about them had only recently reached them, but it's too dangerous there now. Sword Tyrant isn't like Young Shin's opponents until now. It's not just a demonic clan. Bai Male said they train randomly, combining both orthodox and unorthodox martial arts. She said with terror in her eyes, "They're madmen obsessed with power. No frame of reference can stop them." Ma-Jon confirmed her words. Most importantly, Zhong Nan did not ask for help. It was the group's competence to do only what they were commanded to do. Chang Myung raised his hand and spoke up. Couldn't someone like Ma Jung independently assess the situation and issue a task? Ma Jung frankly replied that he couldn't send Young Shin there without knowing if he would return. Everyone in Desert Fortress has heard about Young Shin's potential, so everyone is worried about his future. Cheon confirmed that he's a valuable unit, especially considering his background. Even the Hwasan sect promised to receive him as a guest. Young Shin asked if a teacher can't distinguish between the interests of the people and personal interests. Does Ma Guanig not believe in him at all? Young Shin insisted that he had always lived up to expectations. He asked for permission to go there. Cheon Myung replied that with his accomplishments, Young Shin doesn't leave them much of a choice. After thinking about it, Ma Jung replied that Young Shin is right. He can't turn away from his will so easily. However, Ma Jung must first test Young Shin with one of his moves. Ma Jung said just one punch. If Young Shin can repel it or dodge it, he can go. Bai Mei-Li objected to the teacher. He said if Young Shin wanted to reach the top of the martial arts world, he should be able to at least do that. Turning to Young Shin, Ma Jung said if Young Shin could withstand his punch, he would promise another reward. Young Shin agreed. The group went out to the courtyard. Cheonju Jinin and his subordinates thanked him for allowing them to be present. Cheonju Jinin told Yu Hyun to remember this moment. This is a rare opportunity to see leader Ma Guanig's technique. Yu Hyun asked if the Desert Fortress leader's technique isn't stronger than the unit leader's technique. Cheonju Jinin replied that it is. But as far as situational battles are concerned, That person is even stronger than his Cheonju. Leader Mei Guanig's nickname is Hell Reaper, which means on the battlefield, he's a real beast. Many leaders of prestigious sects have fallen victim to him. He has always demonstrated overwhelming superiority in battle. When facing a master of this level, you can't miss a single move, because absolutely every punch he throws is devastating. Unlike them old-fashioned warriors who are fixated on their learned arts, he has fully honed his skills for real combat. Even for a seasoned master, this kind of combat is devastating. There are no people among their peers that this man can't hit with his techniques. Young Shin asked Ma Jung if he would give him time to prepare. To replied as much as he wanted. Ma Jung explained that he was going to demonstrate a strike that even a white-ranked warrior would have a hard time taking. Therefore, Young Shin needed to concentrate as much as possible. Young Shin realized that there were less than 30 black-clothed masters in Desolate Fortress. One can't let that intimidate oneself. Young Shin took a deep breath. He tuned that he just needed to show off the martial arts he had comprehended. He concentrated. He saw the teacher's aura and confidently told him to strike. Ma Jung swung. Young recognized this palm technique could easily penetrate even the castle's protective walls. He must dodge. Ma Jung went on the attack. Young Shin realized that dodging alone wouldn't be enough in this case. He assumed that if he added a step, it would work, and his assumption was correct. He dodged the attack. Ma Jung, realizing that Young Shin had won, asked what kind of stepping technique he was using. Young Shin explained that he just took a step when he saw his way out. He said that he would call it the flapping of shining wings. With a smile, Ma Jung said that Young Shin could go to Jiangnan. Young Shin received the blue robes of the Desolate Fortress and set off. He was accompanied by Hong Wan. He was given his blue cloak by Cheon Myung. Yang asked what it was for. Bai explained the white garment combined with the blue cloak. It means that Young Shin is a genius rookie who has been recognized as a blue warrior. This status entitles him to command the Desolate Fortress warriors in white robes. Rookie genius is the term for the most outstanding member of the younger generation. Cheon explained if someone asks for Yang to answer that the blue-eyed demon recognized him. That would keep him out of unnecessary trouble. Bai said he could use her name too. He can consider that she handed him the cloak as well. Hong Wan said that the white outfit with the blue cloak suits Young Shin. He replied that it's a little unusual. Hong Wan replied that Young Shin will get used to it quickly. Young Shin thanked Hong Wan, the divine guardian of the Desolate Fortress. In response to Hong Wan's surprise, Young In replied to let him know it wasn't empty praise. There were guards standing at the entrance of the sect. They seem to be warriors from Junnan, so they really have a conflict with Sword Tyrant, judging from the heavy security at the entrance. When the guards saw these guys coming, they stopped them. He asked them to state their sect name and the purpose of their visit. Hong Wan answered as the guards saw they were from the Desert Fortress. Zhong Young Shin introduced himself by naming the Ma Guanig unit of Desert Fortress. Hong said he's from there too. His name is Hong Wan Chan. The guard asked them for proof of their clothes. The boys showed the plaque. The guard asked, "The Desert Fortress already allows such young warriors to act independently." The guard standing in the gate said, "Enough is enough. This is not a good time for visits. They have a fight coming up." He hopes the boys realize that they can't blindly trust strangers. Ho Wan said, "Okay," and demonstrated one of the techniques with a bright flash of energy. The guards shouted that they were really from the Desert Fortress. Hong Wan was pleased with himself, but not for long. One guard shouted, "How dare they influence a disciple of the Zhongnan sect right in his home?" Watching what was happening, Young Shin concluded that the battle with the Sword Tyrant was not going smoothly. It seems that the pride of one of the 9 greatest sects in the world has been severely hurt. And then some youth showed up claiming to be Desolate Fortress warriors. It's only natural that this would cause irritation. The guard said he doesn't believe them. So young and already warriors of the Desert Fortress. Times are tough these days. The other said even if they are from the Desert Fortress, it's still a problem. If they are reinforcements, why are there only 2 of them? Is the greatness of Desolation Fortress already in the past? Young Shin got angry. He said it's wrong to insult another sect's warriors without a reason. He demanded that they take it back. The guards were also angry that he was threatening them. They drew their swords, but Young Shin quickly disarmed them. A girl intervened in the conversation. She ordered him to stop. Young Shin felt she was strong. The guards called her a mentor. Young Shin noted to himself that she was not inferior to the blue-clothed warriors from the Desolate Fortress. Looking at the guards, she sternly said, "Just look at them. Their words and actions are worthless. We'll talk to them later. She ordered them to leave. The guards apologized to the great mentor. They said they were ashamed. Turning to the boys, the girl apologized to the mighty warriors of the desolate fortress for the guards showing their unsightly side. Jongyeon-in introduced himself. He said that he belonged to the Ma Gwanig unit of the desert fortress. Since the friend was numb with surprise, Youngin introduced himself as Hong Wan Jang. He is with him. The girl smiled and introduced herself as Junnan sect's Wei Ji Miaohua. Hearing the name Wei Ji Miaohua Hong Wan, said that it was the cloud sword dragon of the Zhongnan sect. She was rumored to be a heaven-sent genius who had already made a name for herself in the martial arts world. Hong Wan said that he was honored to meet a legendary warrior like her cloud dragon. Young Shin admitted that it was rude of him to show up without an official message from Desolate Fortress. He was ashamed in front of the great Wei Ji. She said that she saw Hong Wan Chang trying to convey the purpose of the visit, but the guard rudely interrupted him. Rather, she was the one who needed to apologize on Junnan's behalf. She apologized for the inconvenience, said she would escort them to the headquarters, said they would discuss the rest when they went upstairs. Young Shin thanked her. Then Young Shin's brother came out to meet them. He was surprised to see them. When they entered the manor, little Hyo A ran towards Young Shin, shouting uncle. She threw herself into Young Shin's arms with tears in her eyes. He asked her how she was. The girl didn't say anything, but cuddled up and cried. Weiji said that the sect leader and elders had gone to fight the enemy swordmasters. Since the guests came from Desolate Fortress, she brought the only remaining sect elder. The boys bowed courteously and introduced themselves to the elder. He said that he was called Yong Yeol. This is Swordmaster Junnan, the strongest warrior of his generation. Yang thought he might even be stronger than his maternal grandfather, Ma Yongjok. Jung Yeol asked Young Shin how old he was. He replied that he was turning 16 this year. Jong Yeol asked Young Shin to look over there. He pointed to the rock where the writing was carved. Weiji asked the elder if he was going to tell the secrets of the sect to an outsider. Passing on the Nine Yang style is a long-time dream of their sect. Jong Yo-il replied, except that his founder was never a member of the sect. He said that one of the founders, Jun Nan, befriended him and took him in. And in his later years, he had already carved the secrets on Mount Zhongnan by himself. However, the Nine Yang style could not be considered a martial art of their sect. Jong Yeol said that his time is running out. If he saw his benefactor's sword once last, he could leave without regrets. Miaohua is the only one who can revive the Nine Yang style, but he can't entrust his dying will to her alone. Weiji said she just can't understand why the elder is going to bequeath it to just anyone. What did he see in it? Jong Yeol asked her to look at it herself. That enchanted gaze. Did he go into a trance after seeing the path of the sword? Yan didn't hear anyone anymore. He looked and was sure it was the blade's mark. The few lines carved into the rock were the trace of the blade. The exile had founded the Broken Sword sect, one of the most famous martial arts schools. It was unrivaled in the whole world, except for the Desolate Fortress. Hong Wan thought that if he was equal to their leader, he must be an outstanding master. Chong Yo-il said that this man had lifted his starving orphan on his back and climbed Mount Junnan. Hong said, so it was Master Gu Yanjun who accepted the elder into the Zhongnan sect. But why couldn't they learn his martial arts then? Elder Jong Yeol said it was not fate. That's life. He lacked talent. Not only him, but many swordsmen in their sect had failed. Knowledge or skill alone was not enough to master the outstanding art of swordsmanship. Hong Wan took a closer look at the writing on the rock. They meant only the worthy would be rewarded. Chong Yo-il said it was entirely a matter of talent. They put expectations on Miaohua. She tries not to show it, but this child surely feels a great burden of responsibility. When Young Shin took a deep breath, Jong Yeol turned to him, asked what the child sees here. Young Shin drew his sword. Weiji Miaohua said in surprise. He wanted to show what he saw. But then there was a rumbling sound. Weiji said it was the sword of the tyrant. Ho Wan asked if she meant to say they were attacked. Elder Jong Yeol said the guests should wait here. Weiji said to take care of Hyo A. Young Shin said it looks like this isn't the first attack. Asked his brother if these two always fight for them. The brother said, who knows who attacked them. There are times when the enemy can only be hit by maters. That's where they go. Yong realized Zhongnan is in big trouble since the elder has to defend the abode. Hong said as soon as they arrived, there was trouble. Yong said, it's time to intervene. Hong said even if they think it's impossible, the local warriors will lay down their bones, but will defend their pride of being the strongest. They saw with their own eyes if not for Wei Ji, things could have ended badly that time. Young said it didn't look like they had time to relax. A voice came from nearby and asked them not to speak rashly about their warriors. Yan turned around and saw the warrior who was at the gate. Young Shin said that Hong didn't say a single disrespectful word about them. The others said words can be interpreted in different ways. Don't they realize that Desolate Fortress is not welcomed with open arms everywhere? Young Shin thought that it was true that Desert Fortress had many envious people. Hong Wan asked the warriors if their masters had not come down to fight. They seemed to be short-handed. One of the warriors got angry when he heard they were short-handed, shouted at them not to insult their sect. And then they saw that strangers had entered the manor. They broke through Jun Nan's guard. It was the sword of the tyrant young Nan, wondered how long they'd been at it to get here. Among the enemies, he commanded them to destroy the cubs. This is the main legacy of the local swordsman. The guards who were arguing with the boys rushed to their defense, shouting for them not to dare. The head of the bandits came closer and asked the Desolate Fortress cubs what they were doing here. Did their sect decide to intervene? Because they were bored out of their mind. Young Shin realized that this group of enemies were taking advantage of the turmoil of the battle to sneak in and destroy the little ones, like Hyo-Ah. Young Shin told Hong Wan to help. He said he'd cover for them. So, Young Shin went to attack the enemy leader. Hong Wan helped the guards fight off the attackers. Young Shin evaded the enemy's attack by using a flap of his glowing wings to destroy the leader. To the surprise of his men, the enemy shouted that he couldn't be defeated by a puppy. The boys ended up helping the guards defeat the attackers. Warrior Zhang Nan said that they should admit that they overreacted. They apologized for their rudeness. Elder Zhang Yol and Wei Ji came back. Elder said that Jun Nan owes the guys a favor. Young Shin hugged Hyo-Ah and said he was only protecting his sister. He is the hope of their sect. He will follow the path of Miaohua. Zhang Yol replied that Young Shin was still a great favor to their sect. He replied that if the elder really felt that way, he would be honored. Young Shin apologized and asked for permission to train with them. He said that he wasn't ready to leave yet. What he felt at the sight of the mountain won't let him go. Zhang Yo-Il said it looked like he really had an epiphany. Young Shin reflected that through the encounter with Tyrant Swordsman, he had realized a lot of things. He started practicing. His movements amazed everyone. After a few moves, he realized that the QE was not flowing as he intended. He informed the audience that he had yet to realize the legacy of this master swordsman. This trace clearly carries his mastery, calling for a broadening of perception. Zhang Yeol explained that the trail of the martial artist who founded his sect is imbued with his special spiritual energy. It is beyond the boundaries of the martial arts they are accustomed to. Zhang Yeol is sure that Yeon is like him, if he can even touch his light. That must be the essence and purpose of Young Shin. He asked the elder said this master had lived in Zhongnan for his last years. Young Shin assumed that his style was intertwined with the skill of that sect. Zhongnan's style is too expressive for him, but he thought that mastering it would be useful. Weiji asked if Master Chong could explain what he meant. Yang said recovering the Gu clan's sword technique is entirely her burden, Mistress Cloud Dragon. However, he might be able to help a little. Weiji was surprised that he would help her learn the lost sword technique. Young Shin asked to give him another moment. His training wasn't finished. He approached the rock again. When he saw those chips on the cliff, he experienced a strange sensation. It was as if the sky and the earth had turned upside down and merged into a single line, and then it hit him. Is it enough to be stronger than your opponent? He now understood why Tai Chi and Plum Blossom techniques were considered the highest arts of the martial world. Sublime techniques are different from ordinary swordsmanship. They're not just meant to swing a sword beautifully, but to embody philosophy. Fusing with the flow of Qi, they create a harmony never seen before. Until now, he did not understand what the true art of swordsmanship was. Everyone looked at Young Shin's movements like they were mesmerized. Elder Zhong Yoil cried as he recognized him as a master swordsman. Hong Wan asked Young Shin if he had already thought of a name for the technique. To replied that he would call it Shimmering Light. Like the luminaries that fill this world that will never fade away, his life will be just as flickering. Late at night, sitting in his room, Young Shin reflected that he had gotten a lot out of this place, saving his niece and creating his own sword technique. The reflection was interrupted by Hong. He sat with a cup in his hands and said that he would like to bring this golden tea with him. After sipping from the cup, he said that thanks to Young Shin, the Zhongnan sect would grant him such a favor. The guys heard someone's voice from outside. The outline of a person appeared at the door. Weiji walked through the door. She said that she wanted to hear what Yeon didn't tell last time. Young Shin interjected she was referring to the sword marks of the great master. They went out to the balcony. Mrs. Wei informed that she didn't want to speak in front of the student, but she really wants to get rid of the sword master's shadow. Her spirit tells her to follow her own path, choosing all available techniques, and one day become a great master. Young Shin looked at Weiji carefully and said that he was willing to help. Weiji looked at Yang and wondered if he had an epiphany. She thought Yan would share. I guess she didn't ask nicely enough. Then Weiji folded her arms on her chest in a courteous gesture and said that she was asking him to teach the art of Master Gu by example. She vowed to honor Yang Xin for the rest of her life. He remained silent. Wei Ji asked if he could. Yang Xin beckoned her to follow him, said it wouldn't take long. Wei Ji replied that she would be more than happy to. While taking a walk before going to bed, Zheng Yul saw the young people go somewhere and was very surprised. Yang Xin led Wei Ji to a rock with writing on it. He explained that he would show the concept first. Wei was surprised to hear about the concept. Ouyang said if she could recreate it, the technique would be exactly the same, and then it was up to the talent of the Cloud Dragon sword. Wei was amazed that he understood the concept completely and not in general terms. Did such a talent really exist in the world? Yang Xin couldn't understand why this girl was looking at him like that. He thought he should keep it simple. He took the sword and said that he would show the idea component, and how Wei Ji would complete the technique was up to her. Yang Xin thought it shouldn't be difficult. After all, it would be easier to follow the beaten path than to follow the sword's footsteps and rethink each step. Yang Xin commanded the class to begin. Wei Ji listened attentively. The next day, the elder wanted to talk to Yang. Chang Yeo Yul explained, hearing that he had comprehended the secret of the technique. Wei Ji's confusion enveloped him. Yang Xin was a little confused to hear that he had caused Wei Ji's confusion. The elder explained that, simply put, she was shocked by his ability. After all, she was considered the best among her peers with no equal. Everyone around her called her a celestial martial arts master. Yang Xin was surprised that Wei Ji's talent was known throughout the entire Celestial Empire. It was the first time Wei Ji felt insignificant when she saw a true master. After thinking for a while, Yang Xin said that it was pointless. The great sword dragon is far superior to him. Zheng Youyil said what a fatal mistake Heaven had made. Instead of being proud of his outstanding talent, he modestly makes excuses for his shortcoming. Yang Xin said that the elder is exaggerating. Just then, Wei Ji called out to them. Zhang Yol was glad Wei came. He said he knew she would recover quickly. Yang Xin greeted the great cloud dragon. Wei Ji asked Mr. Chong, since he had mastered the secret techniques, and if he could demonstrate his skills. He agreed to do so. Wei Ji asked if they could learn the art of Gu together. By practicing like this, they would be able to repair each other's gaps and achieve success faster. To everyone's surprise, Yang Xin apologized. He said he didn't even have time to refine his own sword techniques right now. However, since their techniques share the same concept, Wei Ji could learn something from watching it. Yang Xin promised to call her out when he was practicing shimmering lights. Wei Ji asked if he would allow her to watch the training. Yeon replied that Wei could improve her technique by practicing his moves. Wei Ji was amazed that Yang Xin allowed her to watch the shimmering lights. She said that she wasn't the great one, but he was Mr. Zhong. The elder said that magnanimity must have limits. He had already reached a level capable of eclipsing the entire Celestial Empire. Yang Xin remembered the conversation with his team. He had been told that it was not allowed to observe someone else's martial arts training. Ma Jung had completely forgotten about it, because in Ma Guanig, they openly discuss martial arts techniques. Cheon Myung confirmed what Ma Jung said. He added that they could get killed for doing that. Yeon replied that Ma Jung calmly shows them techniques to teach them, isn't he? And they all train together, so they can't help but see everything. Bai said it's different. He needs to realize that full combat training should never be shown. Watching someone else's martial arts training is an unspoken taboo of the Murim. And now, in the mountains of the Zhongnan sect, it seems like he was misunderstood because of this. But still, Yang Xin and Wei Ji's training together has begun. The palm bud technique, where the internal energy flows in shimmering light, is completely different from the unfading radiance technique. Unlike the bud, where each strike is clearly separated from the other, there is a continuous flow and flickering luminosity. The sword is wielded without the slightest hitch, and the blade feels like an extension of the body. This unity is only possible because he created this technique personally. He gave birth to the flickering light. Wei Ji reflected that she had been trying to recreate the Gu clan's technique for quite some time. Therefore, Mr. Chong's attempts had originally seemed crude to her. However, in terms of skill, he instantly surpassed her. The two boys began to learn the technique at the same time, but their successes were completely different. The difference in speed was enormous. He absorbs everything lightning fast. She's not Wei Ji's dragon at all. After a while, Yang Xin met Yeo Il-shin, the elder of the Zhongnan sect again. Yeo Il-shin thought it was fate that they met again. The boy she met on the day of the massacre at the Jeon Manor had grown into a true warrior. Sitting next to the elder was Heavenly Sword Master Gu Yang Xin, the head of the Zhongnan sect, the son of Elder Yeo Il-shin. Gu Yang Xin said that he had heard rumors that the warrior Ma Guanig had learned the legacy of his late father and shared the secret techniques with Miaohua. He had also saved the young disciples of the Zhongnan sect. He did them a great favor. He asked Yang Xin to tell him what he wanted as a reward. Young Shin asked for permission to help fight against the Sword Tyrant sect. While Yeon was talking, Wei Ji was practicing. Elder Jong Yeol was watching, noting that her concentration was broken. Wei Ji apologized, said she was just distracting the elder unnecessarily. He asked if it was because of Young Shin. Wei Ji said it's not about him, it's about her. She thought it's not like that. Young Shin's sword is recognized by everyone. What she had honed her whole life was meaningless. Bei asked, "This young man's flickering lights are just as good as Gu's original technique, aren't they?" Jong Yo-il replied that it was. She realized that it wasn't just a beginner's skill. Even though they were practicing together, it was as if he was immediately a few steps ahead. The very fact that someone was able to create a new martial art was incredible, but he mastered it without learning the original technique and surpassed it is shocking. Jong Yeol confirmed that this young man immediately achieved what she had been striving for so long. He is definitely a great master whose skills are disproportionate to his age. However, it's obvious that he will quickly master the martial art he created. Everything in this world is best suited for the creator. It seems that he really does have exceptional talent. Wei Ji said that she would never be able to keep up with him, to live in the same era as such a master. Jong Yo-il said to try to look on the bright side of the situation. After all, she had successfully learned the basics of Gu technique. Wei Ji agreed. She said it was worth it. Seeing Wei Ji's excitement, the elder said that he didn't want to say that. But Young Shin has an open Beihui point that is receptive to nature itself. Through it, one receives the power of heaven and earth in ruinous excess. Even the greatest masters are unable to bear such a gift. Wei Ji asked what Jong Yeol had to say. The elder explained that Young Shin doesn't have long to live. But even so, he continues to fight, like a flame trying to leave a mark on the world. Leaving, the elder said that he deeply respects his endeavors regardless of his level or age. On the Guangchun Plain, an epical battle was about to take place between the Sword Tyrant sect and Zhongnan sect. In the ranks of the Zhongnan sect's army, Yang Shin was also standing in the first line. Among the warriors of the opposing side, the head of the Sword Tyrant clan appeared. Seeing this, Hong Wan said, "Here comes Yang Shin's nemesis." Hong Wan noticed that something was wrong with Young Shin. He asked him what's wrong. Yan said he was fine, but he was worried about why Hong Wan came here. He could have stayed away. From the Sword Tyrant, the third apprentice of the leader, Wei Mu Hyuk came out. Asked which of the opponents dared to accept his sword, let him come out. Yang Shin asked the esteemed sect head, Gu Yang Shin and Elder Zhongnan, to enter the battle on behalf of their sect. Wei Jin was astonished, but she remembered Chong Yo-il's words that he continued to fight like a flame that was trying to leave a mark in this world. Zhongnan, the sect head, allowed Yang Shin to enter the duel. He thanked and went to meet his opponent. Everyone looked at his footsteps. A great master living one moment against fate. He had already become a legend. At this time, the opponent was gloating that the days of the Zhongnan sect were numbered. The third disciple of the leader, Wei Mu Hyuk, when Young Shin came closer, he realized it was that guy from the Zhong family. He said he had a lot of nerve. He should have killed him back then, but luckily he's back in front of him. If he believes it'll be the same as last time, he's mistaken. The head of the Sword Tyrant sect also recognized Young Shin from the Zhong manor and stared at him intently. After a few seconds of silence, Wei Mu Hyuk asked how long Young Shin was going to stare. The enemy rushed to attack. Young Shin repelled the blow. A famous person once said that the swing of a blade can be used to judge the enemy's abilities. Now that he had mastered the art of swordsmanship, he understood how it felt. In the next instant, Young Shin used his shimmering light technique. The opponent was thrown a few meters away, but he managed to hold on. But after a moment, everyone saw the enemy collapse to the ground. Yang Shin put his sword back into its scabbard and pointed at the head of the Sword Tyrant clan and said that he had severed his arm. The army of the Zhongnan sect cheered. People were saying that his name was Lightning Genius. It's a fitting nickname. Gu Yangsang said that he had heard rumors about the shimmering lights. A truly mysterious and graceful swordsmanship, incredibly powerful. There was confusion on the opposing side. They said it couldn't be like this. Mu Hyuk didn't even have time to do anything. The sect leader of the Sword Tyrant sect ordered them all to be destroyed. The enemies furiously threw themselves into battle. The army of the Zhongnan sect also went into battle. H. Wan rushed forward with a shout to Yang Shin as he remained between the two sects after the duel. A huge warrior ran at Yang Shin and threatened him. Yang Shin realized that he was not a match for him. He was dangerous. It seems to be a relative of Wei Mu Hyuk. Young Shin looked at him and said he hoped he would last longer than a few seconds. The enemy was about to attack, But then Elder Zhang Yoil came to Young Shin's defense. After defeating the enemy, Zhang Yoil looked back and said that he had learned a valuable lesson thanks to Young Shin. And then a terrible battle began. Young Shin thought for a moment. When you're fighting a group of enemies, you shouldn't go straight ahead. You have to pick the one you can defeat. And Young Shin began to fight off the enemies one by one with his flickering lights. And then Young Shin noticed that Hong Wan was already wounded. His head lit up with rage and he rushed to destroy all the enemies around his comrade. After the fight, Young Shin took a walk with Yeo Il Shin. She stated that the preliminary fight ended with the young hero's victory. Elder Il Shin praised Young Shin. He was right to take the initiative. Young Shin replied that she was flattering him. Yeo Il Shin said he shouldn't do that. Their sect is looking up to him. Soon he'll have no shortage of admirers. His quiet days in the sect are really over. One offered to treat him to some good wine that he hid from his brothers and teacher. The other lamented that Mr. Young Shin had already been invited to the duel and he was late. The third said that Shulgak's students are actively showing interest in him, but he's stopping it. Yan must spar with him first. Yang was distracted from his thoughts by Yeo Il Shin, saying that they were able to find out why they attacked the Zhang house. His other brother already knows about it, but it's better for Young Shin to hear about it now. Elder Il Shin hoped it wouldn't shock Young Shin. It was worth asking just in case. He answered as she wished. A short while later, the second stage of the Zhongnan sect's battle with the Sword Tyrant began. Looking at the opponents, Elder Zhang Yeoyul said that it wouldn't be easy. The council elders came out in full force, and although they were few in number, if they won here, it would be over. Elder Zhang Yeol asked Miaohie to take care of his students. Weiji wished Master Chan good luck. He replied that he wished Cloud Dragon to overcome everything as well. Elder Chan Yeoil warned Yang to beware of the sinister Rakshasa. This is Wimu Hyuk's grandfather, whom he defeated in a duel. Young Shin asked if he was the same elder of the Sword Tyrant clan. Zhang Yeoyul confirmed it. The elder said sure that in the heat of battle, he would personally target Young Shin. He's considered to be above the head of Sword Tyrant. It's said to act as an extension of that leader's body, like his arms and legs. On the battlefield, it remains just his right hand. Young Shin was thankful for the warning. The battle began again. The Sealgak fighters were announced a battle formation, but in a flash, the enemies reached them and began to destroy them. When Young Shin noticed this, he rushed to their aid, but in the heat of battle, he sensed something. An elder from the Sword Tyrant, the sinister Rakshasa, was closing in on him. He said he wouldn't let him go today. Sinister Rakshasa vowed to bring Young Shin's head to his grandson, Mu Hyuk's grave. Young Shin asked the enemy, all members of the demonic sect are like this. His subordinates die at the hands of Zhongnan sect masters, and he continues to picket him out of personal grudges. After Yonggin's words, if evil Rakshasa was not ashamed, he rushed to the attack and shouted, "Burn in hell." This time, Young Shin was able to resist the enemy and deflected his blow. However, he was pushed back a couple of meters. Young Shin was stunned by the evil Rakshasa's power. He had only taken one hit and was almost out of energy. Then, Young Shin decided to use the sighted eye technique. He realized that with his current level, he would not be able to defeat this master. But suddenly, Weiji and his men came to Young Shin's aid. Young Shin watched and memorized every move of the sinister Rakshasa. The way he held his sword, how his muscles work when he strikes, how he uses his leg strength, and the slightest habits of his body, the length of steps, favorite moves. Young Shin needed to pick apart his opponent's entire technique down to the smallest detail. Suddenly, Young Shin saw that Weiji went for Dung Yujin. It was an attack at the cost of her own life. Miaowa received a heavy blow and was thrown to the ground, but she deprived Sinister Rakshasa of her left arm. The enemy approached Weiji and, saying that her glory was not in vain, brought his sword over Miaowa's head. Young Shin couldn't let that happen. He went on the attack. The enemy said he was waiting for him. But now Young Shin felt this moment, this stance. He knew what the Sinister Rakshasa's next strike would be. Young Shin was able to not only evade the fatal blow, but he was able to defeat his opponent with destruction, to the amazement of those around him. While fighting with Heavenly Sword Master Guyang Shin, the head of the Sword Tyrant sect felt that his right hand was gone. Looking around, he saw what had happened. Yang Shin stared at him and said that he had promised to cut off his right arm. And then Hong Wan gathered air in his chest and shouted as loudly as possible that the desolate fortress warrior had won. The elder was defeated. The entire battlefield seemed to freeze. Both their warriors and opponents didn't understand how this could happen. The sinister Rakshasa had fallen at the hands of such a boy. Elder Yeo Il-shin was surprised. Did Yang receive orders to fight? But the enemy warlord had been defeated. This news energized Zhong Nan's warriors and put the opponents from Sword Tyrant into a stupor. Zhong Nan went in with such a vigor that the enemy would not be able to resist. One of the elders of the Sword Tyrant sect intervened in the leader's fight. He reported to the leader that the enemy warriors had become too spirited, asking him to make a decision about the future. The leader of the Sword Tyrant sect looked at Young Shin. What kind of fervor is he fighting with? Young Shin felt that gaze. This is a strong opponent that he dared not raise his eyes to before. Even now, his gaze is awe-inspiring. But these 4 years were not in vain. The Sword Tyrant leader hesitated for a few seconds and still ordered his warriors to retreat. Later at the manor, Elder Il-shin and the sect leader handed Yang Shin the insignia of recognized master Zhong Nan. Zhong Nan's acolytes would always give him a warm welcome if he showed it to him. Heavenly Sword, Master Gu Yang Shin, said if Yang Shin needed their blades, he should not hesitate to contact. Even if this matter goes against the policy of Desolate Fortress Heavenly Sword, Master Gu Yang Shin will help once. Yang Shin gratefully accepted this, and asked now to tell why the Chong house was destroyed. The head and elder said that Yang Shin deserved to know the truth. It all started because of the world tree. It's the divine tree that sustains the world. It contains the very laws of the universe. The lands of the Jeon clan were fertile because the roots of the divine tree touched its streets. Elder Yeo Il said Yang Shin must have heard that the Desolate Fortress martial arts were sustained by its fruit. Young Shin asked why the Zhong clan was destroyed in the end. In response, he heard that this was the wish of the Sword Tyrant's sworn enemies of Desolate Fortress. They had enough reasons to destroy one weak house. Back then, Zhong Nan received a letter from Desolate Fortress. It contained a request to protect the house. However, they had failed. Now, Sin Aa had become a wasteland in their hand. Elder Yo Il-shin said she was really ashamed in front of Young Shin Jong-san and Hyo Ah. It was time for the guys Young Shin and Hong Wan to go back to their team. After stroking Hyo Ah's head, Young Shin said if she becomes a swordswoman, she can enter the desert fortress. He wished he could grow up big. Weiji asked if they would meet again. Yeon replied that if there were no tasks, he would ask to learn the dragon sword. Elder Jung Yeoil said it is always a pleasure to see streams of friendship flowing like the branches of the Yangtze River. It is indeed a joy for an old man who has passed his golden age. Young Shin replied that he thought the elder would live on for more than 1 century. He sincerely wished that Young Shin would realize his dream. After bowing respectfully and waving goodbye, the boys set off. When they stopped at an inn, they heard the rumor that the Hwasan sect was not averse to the help of the Desolate Fortress. One man said that these sects were already past their prime. Only those like Zhong Nan could boast of defeating the Sword Tyrant. The guy at the next table responded by saying he was a martial arts novice. The fool knows to keep his mouth shut if his head is important. The first one got up from his seat and asked him what he was wrong about. Where are the lauded achievements of these incomparable warriors, he asks. Another visitor added, saying that one of the blue swordsmen, Magwanig, recently lost an eye. The first one grinned at the blue swordsman of Desolation Fortress, said only talk and know how to talk. In the next instant, a blade stabbed into the table beside him. The boy was startled. Looking around, the visitors saw Young Shin. He was very angry. He told him to repeat what he said.